Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are live for another edition of NASCAR 06 Total Team Control, and we are also live at the Bristol Motor Speedway for the running of the Sharpie 500 Bristol Night Race for the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series. Like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content as we get into tonight's action. Full race live stream, realistic commentary on the daily, whether it's the NASCAR video games during the week or the real races on the NASCAR race weekend. I was at the Michigan International Speedway yesterday for the NASCAR Cup Series Firekeepers Casino 400 at Michigan. Race highlight video uploaded on the channel late last night after I got home, and we are here today for a live stream edition of, again, another live race. And because I was at the race last night, hence why I didn't have a live commentary this weekend, but there will be live commentary for NASCAR Cup Series racing this following Sunday at the Richmond Raceway. As far as tonight goes, we have 3 races remaining in the regular season coming into tonight's race. 4 drivers are within 1 race worth of points for the regular season championship into these final 3 races. 2 short tracks and a pretty fast intermediate at the California Speedway yet remain on the regular season schedule. Dale Earnhardt Jr., who comes in 4th in points today, 148 out of 1st following not engine failure, but I guess ran out of fuel. Caution came out, got plowed into from behind by Jeff Burton trying to enter pit road, and that ended Dale Jr.'s day. Finished in the 41st place position, looking for a bounce back performance today off his second DNF. Fell back 2 spots in the standings, and he only lost a few points to Edwards because Edwards also had an engine issue a little bit before he did. So that has brought Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon into the picture as well. Playoff battle coming into this one, or chase battle I should say, at the edge of the cutoff line coming into this race is pretty intense as well. Pretty much got 5 drivers all under a blanket still fighting for those last couple spots. Those 5 drivers include Bobby Labonte, Kevin Harvick, Ryan Newman, Elliott Sadler is into the fold now, up to 11th in points. And the last driver in coming into today's race is Kurt Busch. That is the driver Sadler is 100 points behind on the cutoff line. We know that Kurt Busch is really good here. Elliott Sadler had some good runs back when he was in the Wood Brothers at Bristol, so we'll see how he'll do today as well. And again, let's get into this race. Patrick Shadley, Daniel McKeon, Davion West, Juanita Luna, Billy Kramer, Wade Selinsky. And I believe that is it for everybody that is in the chat already. Let's get this one underway today at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Dale Jr. from the pole leads the field to the green, and we are underway. Greg Biffle starting outside of the front row in that Subway number 16 Ford. Nose to nose off the Exeter turn 2 on this opening lap. Dale Jr. drives it in really deep down on the bottom, and he will lead lap 1 of the Bristol Night Race. Scott Riggs in line right behind him in the 10 car. Qualified in the 3rd place position. Riggs will get by Biffle through turns 1 and 2 in the 2nd lap of the race. Ryan Newman now to the inside of Biffle as Biffle stuck on the outside. His teammate Kurt Busch, who qualified in 4th right behind him, also stuck on the outside lane and is unable to get down on the racetrack. Ran the Truck Series race at Bristol on Saturday night before I left for Michigan yesterday afternoon, and was actually able to get the win in that race with our driver Ron Hornaday. So now trying to get the Cup win today, and we'll go for the Busch Series win with Dale Jr. tomorrow, see if Jr. can pull off at least winning 2 of the 3 races on the race weekend, and myself trying to get all 3 races won under the lights at Bristol this weekend. Brandon Wilson, welcome into the stream as well. Yeah, for sure, Wade. It was good meeting you. You actually, it's a funny story, side story with that. So, obviously, the rest of the chat and the people watching don't know. So I ran into Wade at Michigan yesterday, and it was right around where the driver merchandise haulers were outside the racetrack on the front stretch. And I was waiting for my dad, who was in line in the Chase Elliott section, and my uncle and my mom were on the complete other side. They were just kind of waiting for everybody to get their stuff or whatever. So I was kind of waiting on my dad, and he was like he was basically getting his stuff at the time. And Wade came up and said hi or whatever, and so I looked back after he walked away, and my dad was gone, and I was like, oh shoot, now I lost my dad. And there's no like cell reception there, so I like took a lap around the thing, and then I came back and he still wasn't there, and I was like, oh geez. Because we hadn't gotten to our seats at that point yet. That was just kind of a funny story. But anyway, we ended up finding each other like 10 minutes after the fact. But I wasn't expecting him to just wander off like that, though, either. I was expecting him to kind of just stay right where he was. I circled around the entire, where the merchandise haulers were. I circled around like all 8 of them like twice before I ran back into them again. Yeah, for sure. That's only the second one of you guys I've ever seen in person that watches the channel or is subscribed to the channel. So that's definitely, you know, pretty cool. It's kind of a weird feeling because I'm not used to something like that. The people knowing who I am, and I don't, like, I know who you guys are, but I don't know you by face like you do with me. So, no, pretty cool experience, and glad I got to meet at least one of you this weekend. I mean, you guys support me on a nightly basis, so it is kind of neat to see, you know, your guys' faces in person. And it was actually kind of a good thing we had that rain delay before the start, because I don't know that Wade necessarily would have ran into me, because we kind of had extra time, and that's why I went down there, because my dad didn't get anything prior to that. I went die-cast hunting, then I went back to the vehicle, we all ate, and then we went up. But my parents were just kind of holding back at the truck while my uncle and myself went up to go die-cast hunting and stuff earlier on in the day. Posted a selfie on Instagram, nice. I don't know if it was a good picture or not. Sorry if I think the first one on myself was good. I wasn't prepared for the second one just in case the first one's bad, but I kind of do the same thing too. I take more than one picture just in case the first one doesn't turn out too well. Beast Motivator, welcome to the stream. Size on Alt, welcome to the stream as well. NASCAR 21 Ignition is broke, woohoo. Yes, it is. Thank goodness I only have 2 more races on that game. With your parents and your... Oh, jeez, I got loose. I was turning a little too much off turn 2 when I was looking at the chat. Parents and second cousin at the time. Nice, nice. It's kind of cool your family was all able to go as well. Dale Jr. kind of pulling away in the early going after qualifying on the pole, and maybe there were some cars that qualified a little bit further back that might have faster cars in the race that are trying to get up to Dale Jr., but for right now, about a 1-second lead for Earnhardt. 20 laps in, hasn't had to deal with any lap traffic so far. Pretty easy in the early going of the race. About as easy as Bristol can be, but it's not going to be like this all 500 laps. I'm sure there will be drama. That's why it's good for Dale Jr. to get that good starting spot. He needs all the points he can get. If he's going to want to win this regular season championship, he needs to go on a tear tonight, later this weekend at California. I believe that race is going to be potentially Saturday night for us. I did upload the weekly streaming schedule on the community tab earlier today. I believe I have that scheduled for Saturday, and then that means Richmond for our regular season finale will be sometime next week. I do have a bunch of NASCAR Heat 5 content on the channel. It's tired that day. Oh, I feel you. I wasn't tired until like the end of the night, and I'm surprised because I only went in with like 6 hours of sleep. Trying to make sure I had everything ready to go with the predictions video so I could record it in the morning before I left, which I did, but by the time I hit the road, like, it wasn't uploading on YouTube very well because I didn't have internet. I was using my hotspot on my phone, connecting it to my laptop to upload the video from my laptop where I had edited everything, and so I kind of stunk. I wasted a bunch of time yesterday morning with that and couldn't get it uploaded. But I wanted to make sure I put the community post in at least for my prediction picks so you guys could see it, help you guys with your fantasy advice and stuff. And it's kind of 50-50 on the predictions this week. Well, actually, I think I only got 2 predictions wrong. I think I went 4 for 6 this weekend, so not bad. Dale Jr.'s got a pretty good handling car. He was a little loose and had an edgier setup in qualifying. Did not practice for today's race. That setup he would have had was what he ended up with at the end of the Food City 500 at Bristol that we raced earlier this season. What, Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe, Ty Gibbs. Shirt, I'm assuming? He's tired before the race. I didn't notice. We'll say the car's starting to get a little bit looser now that we're about 30 laps into this run. The major change that Dale Jr. made from qualifying to the race is they dropped the air pressure on the tires quite a bit just to try to give him a little bit more grip. Because if he was loose in a qualifying set for a couple laps, and you know, how was this car going to handle if we had to have it a 100-lap green flag run on these tires? Because he probably wouldn't have been able to make it without wrecking. He did have about a 1.2 to 1.3 second lead. The lead has been cut down to about 0.8 of a second. But Dale Jr. has at least hit his marks in the sense that he hasn't made a mistake at all yet. He's kept it off the wall. Hasn't made contact with another car, obviously, because he got out ahead of Biffle on lap 1 by the time they got into 3 and 4, and he hasn't really had to worry about anything in the rearview mirror so far. Ryan Newman's going to need all the points he can get coming into this race below the cutoff line. Him running in second is huge for him early on, but he'd like to get some bonus points and try to take this lead away from Dale Jr. if at all possible. Newman does have one win on the season. It's going to be all for naught if he does not make it into the chase. And it sounds like somebody is on their way. Oh, we have some cars into the pits. About 3 cars hitting pit road already on lap 38. 4 cars. This is very strange. On the front stretch pit lane, we have a few cars hitting pit road. Not expecting that today. More cars are on their way into the pits. Ryan Newman just pitted from second place. There are a lot of cars pitting already in the early going, just 38 plus laps into the race, which is a very interesting. Junior's not going to plan on pitting anytime soon. I don't know if this is a game glitch. I have not seen this before. Martin Truex Jr. is into the pits now. Oh, trouble! Multiple cars around in turns 3 and 4. One car gets ricocheted. Oh, jeez. I think we're back up and running again. But, obviously, I just put in the power came back on after like 20 seconds, but having to reconnect the stream and everything, and obviously because the power got knocked out, my PS2 shut off, so it looks like we're going to have to restart the race. I might wait. I don't know how long it's supposed to rain for. I honestly had no clue it was even supposed to rain. I think these showers just kind of popped up out of nowhere. Yeah, it's saying, let's see here. My mic might not be turned on. Sorry for that. Let me know if you guys can hear me. We may lose power again. I don't know. It went off for a good 20 seconds, and then it came back on again, like right after that caution happened. I didn't even get to see the replay of it. I mean, the stream probably started lagging, like, right when I lost power. I don't know if you can hear that thunder outside off the mic or not. Yeah, we are under red flag conditions. We have lightning in the area. I haven't seen any lightning, but obviously there's some thunder out there. It got pretty dark all of a sudden. It's just severe thunderstorm warning. Wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour. Gusty winds knock some tree limbs down. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like it's supposed to be up at like 6:45. So, I think what I'll do is I'll keep the stream running, but I might refrain from turning the PS2 back on until after the storm passes through, just so it doesn't get knocked out again. Mic is all good? Alright. R6, welcome to the stream. Dark Crypto, yeah, I didn't think rain delays could potentially delay a virtual race, but it does seem like that is the case right now. Well, if that doesn't take the biscuit. So, what happened in the race right before that, which is going to be weird when we restart it back up, we had cars pitting at about lap 38, and then randomly 2 cars wrecked right in front of Dale Jr. and a couple other cars. There was about a 5-car pileup. Dale Jr. had nowhere to go, got caught up in it, and I was about to have to pit for damage purposes because of being involved in the accident under the first caution, but before I had a chance to, the power got knocked out. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Unfortunately, we cannot resume the race from where we were at. We'll just have to restart it. We were at lap 42 when the caution came out. There's a big wreck at turns 1 and 2. I think Travis Quapple was the guy who got pinballed around by John Andretti, it looked like, who was our Michigan winner and won on fuel mileage. Greg Biffle got a big piece of it. Of course, our driver Dale Jr. got a big piece of it as well. And it looked like one of the fantasy drivers was... actually, Ryan Newman was the other car involved. So, literally, of the drivers in the top 3 of them were involved. This is... Man, it is getting nasty out there. Yeah, so I'm just going to refrain from doing too much right now. I would not be surprised if the stream gets knocked out again. At least it was early. This is true. PS2 is out cold, yeah. I have not tried to turn it back on yet, so hopefully it does still work. I didn't hear anything like out of the ordinary other than when the power shut off. It was just all of a sudden. I didn't have any warning. It wasn't like it flickered and went off. It's like it just went completely off. And then it flickered right before it came back on. Imagine if I was on the last lap and then the game crashed due to lightning. Oh, that would stink. Yeah. Let me know if you guys can hear that thunder outside. Got some wicked storms coming through here. It's been we lost power at my house. I want to say like 2 or 3 months ago. We lost power for almost... My parents were out of town that weekend. I had actually streamed. I think it was on a Tuesday. No, it was a Friday. No, hang on. Think about it, Keegan. It was on a Thursday night. It was a Thursday night. I got done streaming because I usually stream on days I'm off at 6. So I'll stream at 6. And the stream got done at like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And we had storms that came through at like 9:30, 10 o'clock that knocked the power out. So the stream was already done. As our house and most of the town was out of power from like that time at like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night until like the next day at like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. So I actually went into work and their power was like knocked out and stuff too, so they couldn't run any of the powered equipment or anything, so they just sent me back home. And I'm like, that kind of stinks because I'm at home, but I can't really do anything because the power's out. So I was just kind of sitting around for like 2 hours and then it came back on. Actually, a little longer than that. Hearing thunder on your own? Oh, from where you're at? Oh, jeez, man. It's like every time like you hear the thunder crackling, the wind... I might have to show you guys. It might be... we might have to go full screen here. I'll show you guys outside my window right now. I mean, it looks like rain. It's rain, essentially. Still have the points scrolling across the top of the screen. Actually, when I do this, I'm going to have to disconnect the mic for a quick second, so bear with me here. Hopefully you guys can hear me again. And there's more thunder. Man, we're going to have to re-qualify, too. That's going to stink if I don't qualify on the pole. I'm hoping that everything that just happened in the early going of this race is a carbon copy except for me getting involved in that accident. For my sake. Game crashed? No, the game didn't crash. I lost power. Santiago Kid, welcome to the stream. Fartini, welcome to the stream. Is that a werewolf out there? No. You guys probably couldn't even see anything. Mic is good again? Alright. I had to unplug it for a second. Just wanted to show you guys what was going on. I do see your picture. I wish it was enlarged so I can like see the full thing, but I could just see it. You lost power, but you were still... I lost power, and then it came back on after 20 seconds. I'm refraining from turning my PS2 on until the storm passes through. Which, I mean, I'm under a severe thunderstorm warning right now, but it's supposed to be over at about 6:45. Yeah, I didn't lose the stream. I didn't lose the stream because it came back on after like 20 minutes. Or not 20 seconds. I lost power for like 20 seconds, which was just enough to cause a big lag spike. And then when the power came back on, the stream came back on. But my PlayStation turned off, unfortunately, so I have to power that back up. I have to re-qualify, and we're going to have to restart the race. We were only 42 laps in, so that's good. 42 laps in at Bristol, not like 42 laps in on a super speedway where I was racing for a good half hour or so. Yeah, we weren't that far into the race. Dale Jr. is having a picture-perfect day, though. Led the first 42 laps from the pole. Caution came out. I like what... As soon as there was a wreck, caution came out is when I lost power. And I saw a couple comments in the chat that I got to go back. That was kind of funny reading that one. I was trying to get the stream back up and running again. I got to see this. Yeah, it crashed so hard it knocked the power out. Oh, well, that sucks. Crashed so hard the stream started lagging. Focus on, I mean, yeah, we could talk about that. Wish you two gave us 20 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, if like there's like a stream lag or something. No rain in Texas, though. And it's raining here in Northwest Ohio. And it is pouring. Yeah, I know. It can be extended. It hasn't been extended as of right now. I haven't really pulled up the radar, though. Oh, it has been extended to 7. I don't think we'll wait that long. We will talk NASCAR and playoffs, though, for a quick moment, just because I haven't gotten an opportunity with me just getting back from Michigan yesterday. But we'll talk about that for at least a little bit before I get this back up and run. I'll actually just turn it back on right now. I notice the wind has like really died down all of a sudden. It's still raining outside, but I mean, it literally just went from 50-mile-an-hour winds to like nothing. It's like super still all of a sudden. Rod G, welcome to the stream. Send some to Houston. I'll tell Mother Nature to get right on that. Rain in Michigan, Nashville, Louisiana at the same time. Well, oh, it rained in the Nashville race too? I have no clue who won that. I have zero clue. I honestly forgot it was on yesterday. The street course race for IndyCar. But yeah, Kevin Harvick wins Michigan. And we got a little bit of a pickle right now when it comes to the playoffs between Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex Jr. One of those two drivers is likely going to miss the playoffs. The only way they could both get in is if they both win a race before the end of the regular season. Obviously, if there are more than 16 winners, it reverts to points, but Truex is 4th in points right now. Overall, Ryan Blaney is 2nd in points overall right now. So if they do both win, then they will both be in the playoffs. I think Richmond Ideally, it's not a great track for Blaney. I know Blaney ran well there earlier this season, and he might have another good day. I'm not going to say he's going to have a chance to win that race necessarily. It was actually shocking to me that he ran as well at Richmond earlier this year because that's one of his worst tracks. Richmond and Darlington are far and away his worst racetracks, and he still struggled at Darlington for the most part this year. But needless to say, we got to worry about Richmond because Richmond is next week. As a Ryan Blaney fan, it's not looking too good for him because Martin Truex Jr., in my opinion, is one of the best, if not the very best, at Richmond as of the last couple seasons. He ran second there, or finished third. He finished third earlier this season at Richmond, had a shot to win late, and I think, honestly, that team and a lot of the teams that were on the losing strategy, they know going into this race, it was an afternoon race earlier in the year. It'll be an afternoon race again, probably a little more hot and slick, so it means there's going to be even more tire wear. You're going to see that similar strategy call being played out. It is really going to be dependent on what the track position is going to look like going into the race as far as, what strategy call you're going to make. I can't remember exactly where, Truex and Byron were at before they pitted for their strategy call versus Hamlin and Harvick at the end of the race because it was so far at the beginning of the year. But I just remember that those were the four guys that were all battling for the win at the end on varying strategies. Hamlin and Harvick had the same strategy. But we'll see. We'll see how that all plays out. I'm honestly leaning towards Truex winning the race, to be completely honest. Going into this week, when I was thinking about Richmond next week, I was actually more confident with picking Truex to win next week over my pick yesterday, which was Bubba Wallace. Which I almost got right. I will say, I have not been able to tell you guys. So, Bubba Wallace was 14-1 odds, even after qualifying and practice this weekend. Between that and I felt confident enough. I'm like, he's going to be my pick to win the race. So he was my pick to win the race on yesterday's predictions and finished second. I could have won $420 if Bubba Wallace won yesterday's race. I blame Joey Logano for taking it 3 wide on that restart underneath Wallace and Larson. Basically, I don't think they made contact. It was on the far end of the track from where I was at. So it's hard to tell if he got into him or not, but he definitely ran up the track. He drove it in deep, hoping he could wash up the track and kind of force him to get out of the throttle. That's what happened. He got to second, and then when he got to second, he was holding Wallace up for like a dozen laps, and Harvick got away. I think Wallace had a faster car than Harvick personally. I think the 3 cars that were the cars to beat yesterday were Bubba Wallace, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin. No particular order because it seemed like if you had the clean air, you were king. But I think those 3 cars in particular, if they had the clean air, that they were pulling away. We saw it with Wallace at the very beginning of the race when he qualified in the pole. He was untouchable till the competition yellowed. Then he was back in traffic and kind of had to fight his way through. Denny Hamlin, same thing, middle of the race at one point. He had gotten to the lead, and he had kind of ran away with it. Nobody could really keep up with him because all those other cars like Larson and Wallace were a little further back in traffic, so they never had a chance to keep up with Hamlin once Hamlin got the lead. So he kind of set sail ahead of other guys that he was racing around, like the 2 Trackhouse cars. I think Harvick was up there at the time. I think when Hamlin got to the lead, Harvick was running like second or third. So I do think Harvick, in my personal opinion, had about the 4th best car, but he had the car that was capable of winning, and he had the track position at the end of the race. And plus Logano, and really Blaney too, the Penske cars, Cindric wrecked earlier, but the 2 Penske cars of Blaney and Logano, they were good on the short run, but they were not good on the long run. So they were having good restarts, and they were able to gain a few positions. They were able to hold on to the draft for a couple laps. After that was over, it was done, because Logano kind of held on to second place. There was a gap between him and Harvick, but he kind of held on for a couple laps, and then he was slowly fading. And it was kind of the same thing with Blaney. I don't know how many times Blaney got up to like 4th or 7th after a restart, and then after about 15 to 20 laps, he'd fall like right back to the back half of the top 10, if not outside the top 10. So I kind of figured that was going to happen, that they were going to kind of be holding guys up behind them. And Logano had like 7 or 8 cars behind him at one point before Wallace got around him and kind of started to string apart some of the cars that were in that pack. But yeah, Harvick, big win for him. He'll be in the playoffs regardless. He's in the top 10. I think he's 9th in the regular season standings right now. So even if we get more than 16 winners, he's a lock. Playoff grid is just looking awful right now. Incentive for several drivers is gone, so they can let a teammate in. Yeah. And I was kind of wondering on late race restarts yesterday, because that final restart, I don't know, Denny Hamlin had that penalty. That's right. So before Denny Hamlin had the pit road penalty, and it was looking like it was going to be him and Wallace 1-2, I was like, well, this is perfect for Wallace because now he can have somebody that can help him win. Hamlin's got a couple wins this year. I thought for a fact right then and there that Bubba Wallace won the race, but Hamlin had the penalty. He had to go to the back, so Wallace didn't have another Toyota up at the front because Bell had wrecked bringing out that last caution. He was up there too. There was nobody that could have worked with Wallace manufacturer-wise. Truex didn't get back inside the top 5 until like 10 to go or so, and Wallace was long gone by then in second, so he kind of had no help. There were so many Fords around him on that last restart. He was outnumbered. He had Harvick, he had Blaney and Logano, and he just really didn't have enough of a chance at that point. The thunder's still going on, but it's fairly calm. I'll get the PS2 launched up. I'm gonna have to re-qualify. Getting a phone call from a number I have no clue what it. Potential spam. Watersmeet, Michigan. Never heard of it. Alright, well, TV, PS2 seems to be working, so that's good. And we'll get this race back up and running again. That was a fun 42 laps, and then it just went out the wayside. I thought I made like a perfect call on that crash that happened in front of us, too. Hey, it's Greg Biffle. Oh, you guys can't see anything. Hang on. NASCAR 2006 team control. Actually, I better mute it so I don't get copyrighted again. Alright. Give me a quick second and then I'll have everything back up and ready for you guys. Alright, let's see here. Might be a little off-centered. I'll be able to adjust that once I actually see the cars on the track. And we get right into the actual gameplay. For right now, it might look a little weird. So I'll have to redo the leaderboard at the top of the screen where the points are scrolling across, and I don't want to do that. So it's going to take me a little bit to get refreshed. Load successful. All right. Yeah, everything seems to be working. I muted everything. It's like eerily quiet in my ear and in on the TV.
Bristol, the biggest name in short track racing. This high bank half mile is a tough place to get a win, but it's even a tougher place to get a ticket.
Yeah, I might have to just let the points disappear at the top of the screen for right now because that looks weird.
Where 43 drivers will try to make their point in the Sharpie 500.
Like, I really want to put the points back up at the top of the screen. Actually, you know what? I might be able to. Hang on. I'll get it back at the top of the screen. I'll just copy and paste. I don't know why I didn't think about that before. Bear with me. Filter. We were having some technical difficulties. Inclement weather. Inclement weather at the Bristol Motor Speedway tonight. The virtual Bristol Motor Speedway, that is. Alright. So, yeah, okay. I'm just going to keep the same setup I had in for qualifying, because it was enough to qualify on the pole. I'll just drop the air pressure before the start of the race. Try to make things a little quicker here. Alright. Take 2. Sharpie 500 Bristol Night Race 2005 edition. Be able to see qualifying this time. I'm not going to call the qualifying. I'm going to assume I can qualify on the pole again. I did it before. I swear if I end up messing up my qualifying lap and end up like mid-pack, I'd be really upset. Working the bottom all the way through turns 1 and 2. A little loose off the exit of turn 2, but able to feed the car down the back straight away. And pull time. That's all Dale Jr. needed. Got it on the first lap. Actually, it took 2 laps for me to get it earlier. About a 1/10 of a second quicker than Jeff Gordon, who qualified second this time around. Greg Biffle qualified second the first time. Looked I think... Okay, I've got it back on my end. We almost lost power again. It flickered. It flickered, but some of my stuff turned off and some of it didn't. My PS2 stayed on. My TV turned off. So I had to get the TV back up and running. And I think that's why it froze my OBS. Or on the screen, it froze the OBS. Oh, I don't know. Maybe we lost OBS too. Hopefully you guys can hear me. It's good now. So it's working on my TV. I don't think it's working anywhere else. It's still frozen. The game's frozen. Don't know about the game sound. Might have to try this again. Come on. Oh, there's me again. Now I've... Oh my gosh. This is a train wreck of a stream right now, let me tell you. We have been streaming for 47 minutes and we have yet to get at least the reversion. I mean, we got 42 laps in, but we're going to have to restart it regardless. Unfortunately. Now we have 2 tickers at the top of the screen. Okay, now the game itself isn't frozen anymore. That's good. Thanks for everybody that is still watching and bearing with me on this. I very much appreciate you guys that are still staying tuned in. We are trying to get the reversion, I can't even talk now. The storm's got me all flustered. Trying to get the restart of this Sharpie 500 Bristol night race underway. Let me know in the chat what is all working and what isn't. As soon as I get the ticker working at the top again. That better be the last time. Nope, don't do that, Keegan. Don't do that. Derek Booth, welcome to the stream. Black Ace, welcome. Sound is back. Regine Huddleston, thanks for tuning in. Lucas Salisbury, welcome. Earl Arnold Jr., welcome. For those of you that are just tuning in, we had a powwow about, I don't even know now, probably almost a half hour ago. Knocked the stream out for about 20 seconds, came back on, waited a little bit for the storm to pass through, and then it kind of flickered again on me just a little bit ago where we didn't lose the stream at all, but the game... not the game, but the OBS on my laptop kind of froze for a second, so I had to reset everything here. But that and then my TV shut off. But everything else was still trying to get that leaderboard back up at the top of the screen, which shows the points standings coming into tonight's race. Yeah, rain delay. Pretty much. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, let's get this race underway. I think Kurt Busch is at risk of being knocked out of the playoffs. I'm assuming you're talking real life still. There is a chance. How many points ahead of 30th is he right now? I would imagine he's still quite a few points. He's only missed 3 races, and he was like around 14th in points before he got hurt. I don't think he'd fall out of 30th even if he misses the last 3 races. The big thing is will he be able to actually race when the playoffs start? I'm checking real quick. And there we go. Kurt Busch is 20th in points right now. Yeah, he's not going to fall outside. He's 201 points ahead of Corey LaJoie, so mathematically he's already locked into the top 30. So the big thing for Kurt Busch is can he race by the time the playoffs come around? If he doesn't, then that may open up the door for Truex and Blaney to both get in on points if we don't have another different winner. But they would have to be banking on Kurt Busch literally still being concussed enough that he can't race when the playoffs start. That would be the only chance. But he wouldn't get knocked out. 2 new guys. Yeah, if 2 new guys win, then yeah. Yeah, like if Truex and Blaney won, or Truex wins Richmond and Bubba wins like Daytona or something, for sure. Yeah, he would get knocked out because he is last of everybody that doesn't have a win. Even Bubba's ahead of him in points now. Obviously, Truex and Blaney would be too. And Almirola. A few guys. Almirola could win Daytona. Alright, we'll get this race underway now. Drop that air pressure down 21 PSI, and we will get going. Take 2 of the Sharpie 500 Bristol night race delayed about 50 minutes, but we're going to get this back in. Green flag is in the air, and we are underway at Bristol, and it'll be Jeff Gordon who gets a good launch out the start. Junior moves him into the wall. Junior did not want to lift off the exit of turn 2, and he got into Jeff Gordon off the start, and Dale Jr. will lead lap 1 with Edwards to P2. That was an aggressive move by Earnhardt, but because I led the first 42 laps, I did not want to not lead the first 42 laps this time. Especially with Gordon, Edwards, and Stewart all battling for the regular season championship. That was an aggressive move that Gordon is not going to appreciate from Dale Jr. And Jr. trying to get away now in the early going. It's going to be interesting to see if we see cars pit after about 38, 39 laps, because they were starting to do that for whatever reason before that first caution came out. Well, half the field had pitted at the time. High alert, though, is going to be Dale Jr. in this one. That is for certain. Blind corners. If there's a wreck that happens in front of you, you can't really see it until you actually get to that point. I mean, you can maybe see it a couple seconds in front of you before it actually happens if you're in the middle of the corner. That's about it. It's really blind until you get to the straightaway. Well, we've seen a few big pile-ups at Bristol in the past. Junior's led the first 6 laps. The 2 drivers who were running second and third before the powwow was Ryan Newman, Greg Biffle, before they had, for some reason, pitted. But again, it's going to be interesting to see if we see stops at that point again. That was some sort of a game glitch that I was not expecting. I would assume it's a game glitch. It never happened when we were at Bristol and the truck race the other night, nor at Bristol in the Cup or Busch Series the first time we were there on our set seasons. I'm going to have to get the chat back up on my laptop. I just realized it's not there. Pause it for a quick second down the backstretch, and should be the last time I have to worry about pausing it. Might get 2 more winners in the regular season. Yeah, that's possible. Michael Turner, by the way, welcome to the stream. We'll send it up in the wall. Edwards closes in just a little bit. It's very difficult to look at the chat on short tracks and road courses. I tell you guys that every time I'm at one, but it really is. much as I'd like to look at the chat. Got to have the focus on for 500 laps today. Actually, considering we ran 42, we're technically running 542 laps at Bristol tonight. Yeah, Blaney and Truex. Well, I mean, that's true. I just don't trust Blaney to win there because he's typically not good at Richmond. As a Ryan Blaney fan, and him being my favorite driver, I kind of know where he runs well and doesn't run well most of the time. And usually Richmond is one of those tracks he doesn't run well. I think that was his first top 10 at Richmond, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe a second. Either his first or second top 10 at Richmond ever earlier this year. And personally, I think he only led as many laps as he did because he was so hard to pass on the flatter tracks with this car. So that kind of factored in better for him with him qualifying on the pole. The only benefit, though, I will give him as well is he did run really well at New Hampshire. Had a top 5 at Gateway. And then ran really well at Phoenix earlier this season, too, where he competed for a win. And those tracks, as well as Richmond, all kind of somewhat have a similar setup. And you usually see those drivers run well at Phoenix at the end of the year, so all four of those tracks kind of correlate with each other, but still, for whatever reason, Richmond hasn't been good for Blaney. In the Cup Series, the weird thing is he got his first Xfinity start there and finished top 10 with Tommy Baldwin Racing in his first Xfinity start when he was only like 16, 17 years old, so it's weird that it hasn't translated well for him in the Cup Series. Maybe it's the new car, though, too. Maybe with the new car, it's kind of the equalizer, I guess, in him running well and not running well at Richmond. That, I'm sure, is a big factor in it. The Fords have been really good at the flatter tracks. Logano won at Gateway. Chase Briscoe won at Phoenix earlier this year. And New Hampshire. Well, Bell won New Hampshire, but the Fords did have a good out at New Hampshire. .21 laps in, a 1.1 second lead for Dale Jr. It wasn't 1.3 second lead at its largest earlier on before the delay. I'll stop referencing the delay as far as how this race is playing out once we get to about 42 laps in and we're at about our normal pace. So I guess caution free out of technicality in this one. I'll be interested to see if we see a wreck at lap 42 again. You know what would be very strange is if we had another caution at lap 42 and have another power outage as soon as that happens. It is done raining, though, and I think as the storm just gets further and further away, I don't think I'll have an issue with that again today. Kind of a freak thing. It was just like a pop-up shower. I had no clue it was even going to rain. Must have popped up east of where I live within the last couple hours. I had no clue it was even going to rain, let alone that heavy as it did. What the heck was that? What? They ever say Ricky Stenhouse DNF because never said it on the broadcast. I believe he did DNF. I thought I remember seeing him get towed to the garage, if I'm not mistaken. So I believe he did DNF. Billy Carjoy, welcome to the stream. What the heck was that? What happened? Truex great at Watkins Glen, but JGR sucks at road courses, by the way. I didn't read the end of that chat message in the chat you left, JC. But yeah, that's one thing, too. The Toyotas haven't done well there. I'd probably lean towards Truex probably not having a super strong day. But that's one thing, though, with the strategy on the road courses. You usually see the drivers pit before the end of the stage. and then drivers that are going to stay out to get stage points. I think that's going to factor in. I think you're going to see Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex Jr. stay out to get some stage points that day. Blaney's been really good on the road courses this year, though. Outside of getting turned late at Indy, he would have had top 5s in 4 of the 5 road course races so far this year, or 3 of the 4 road course races so far this season. So he's definitely been very, very consistent. Top 6s, not top 5s. He was 6th at Coda, 6th at Sonoma, and then he finished 11th or 12th at Road America. I know he's just outside the top 10, and he was top 3 late at Indy before having a problem there. He's won a lot of stages on road courses this season too. But it's not really going to matter though if he can't get a win and somebody else wins. Likely not catching Chase Elliott for the regular season championship. Yeah, that was a wild fire from Custer this weekend. Very odd. Similar to maybe a Chris Buescher incident last week. I'd say there was more. Well, I wasn't at Indy to see Chris Buescher's detail, but Cole Custer's pit box was like right in front of mine, so I actually got most of his fire slash tire blowout debacle happen all within that lap of it happening and the caution coming out on camera for the race highlight video that was posted late last night. But as far as how it happened, yeah, it was just very strange. I will say he was on pit road a couple times. He had pitted, and he kind of slid the rear tires quite a bit trying to get onto pit road. And then there was another time where he had pitted like a couple laps later, which is where I believe he had the flat tire, but he kind of slid the rear tires again. So I don't know if there was maybe something going on with his brakes, and maybe that caught fire somehow. I don't know how it would have or could have, but I don't know if that correlated with one another. That was just something I noticed from where I was sitting when I was watching the race. Yeah, it was definitely wild. We're seeing pit stops again right around lap 38 to 39, just like we saw earlier. Carl Edwards was in from second place. Dale Jr. going to get around him and lap him an extra time. And we'll see if we get a caution at about lap 42 like we did last time as well. This is big for Dale Jr. if he can keep Carl Edwards a couple laps down in case caution comes out. I have no clue why the field is pitting after lap 38 to 39. And it's going to be interesting to see if they do that the entire race today. Oh, we've got slow cars, trouble! One car in the wall on the outside. Mark Martin still wall riding right now through turns 1 and 2. Kenny Schrader into the back of him, and we continue to stay green at Bristol. Well, that was what could have been the caution at lap 42. Almost a carbon copy of what happened earlier. Only nobody hit Martin when he got up into the wall. That was what happened to Travis Kvapil before we had that power outage. And Martin is down on the pit road now. Junior just missed to the inside of all that calamity. And he's got a 1-lap lead on the field now, as most of the field, if not everybody, has already hit pit road for the first time today. Dale Jr. is just going to run this out. No incentive not to, really. Very interesting why they all pitted at lap 38 to 39. Some made it a little further than that. And Martin just coming out of the pits once again. Jr. still out of the lead. He'll take it. Needs to make up 148 points on Carl Edwards somehow. Don't usually see too many game glitches with this game, but that was definitely a weird one over the why everybody pitted when they did. 2-race lead in the regular season championship, so he's got a chance of actually clinching the regular season title this weekend then. I'm pretty sure Elliott is the driver that has the least amount of DNFs this year too. He's only had one, which is part of why he's probably leading the regular season championship. He's just finishing more races too, on top of the super hot streak he had there over the last couple months as well. He didn't do so hot yesterday. I will say, out of the Hendrick cars yesterday, he was probably the third, maybe fourth best. I mean, he finished third highest, but Byron and Bowman were kind of on his level, running ahead of him most of the day. And Larson was the class of the Hendrick cars, and in my opinion, had one of the top 3 fastest cars in the field yesterday as well. Yeah, it's definitely his to lose, though. It kind of has been the last few weeks. So lap 53, if you're just tuning in for the first time, we're only at lap 53 due to a power outage earlier. We had some sort of a glitch where the field had pitted at about lap 38, 39 is when they started to hit pit road. Everybody has hit pit road except for Dale Jr., who obviously isn't even halfway on fuel yet. It'll be interesting to see if the field starts to pit again or about lap 77, 78. If they're going to be pitting every 39 to 40 laps, and Dale Jr. is just going to take advantage of this and stay out. This is very strange, though, because I've not seen this with this game. And again, we were at Bristol earlier this season for the Food City 500 day race, and we didn't have a glitch where the field pitted after 38 to 39 laps. So it's very odd. Junior can somewhat hold his own. I mean, he's got about 40 lap older tires than everybody else right now, but still working around cars that are much slower than him in the field. But all 57 laps from the pole so far, but a long way still to go. And I will say, when you're not battling for position, especially in a long lapped race like this one, that's where you can run into perhaps some driving errors if you're Dale Jr., so you still got to keep your head on a swivel at all times. You just got to stay consistent with hitting your marks. You can't get too lackadaisical. Still got to keep that pressure on. Just trying to get around Mark Martin in the 6 right now. I only put the top 19 in the point standings on the screen as well because everybody from 20th and below in points is eliminated from chase contention coming into the race today. Martin Church Jr. comes in 19th in the point standings, is the last driver that mathematically would still have a shot, but even his chances are likely over by the end of this race today if he wants to make the chase in his rookie season. See the skid marks in turns 1 and 2 where Martin got into the wall right around lap 42. Never seen it on EA game. Yeah, I definitely have not here. 2 races and 1 point ahead of Blaney. I'm personally fearing for Ryan Blaney's playoff chances. I was slowly starting to fear that after not so much the Indy Road Course win because Reddick already won before that. But once we got to 14 different winners, I was slowly starting to fear it for Blaney because I felt Richmond could have been a race that Truex would have won, and then possibly a new winner at Daytona. And I didn't know about Harvick at Michigan. I thought that if he was going to win, that was maybe going to be his best chance. I wasn't as sure with that as I was maybe with Truex at Richmond or another new winner at Daytona. But now I'm really fearing for Blaney because I think we are going to get more than 16 winners. For the longest part of the season, I was holding back, but now I feel we're going to get more than 16 winners. And even if we don't get more than 16, I think we will get 16. And something's telling me I don't think Blaney's going to win. Ran good at Richmond this year. He's really good at Daytona, but there's just too much luck that's involved with trying to win at Daytona, I feel like. As much as I do think super speedway racing is a skill of its own right, and that Blaney's good at it. There's also a lot of other good super speedway racers out there that have been just as consistent as he has been at those racetracks, especially like I already mentioned Bubba Wallace. At least at the drivers that don't have a win yet this year. Even Truex ran well on the super speedways this season, even though he typically doesn't. Won the first 2 stages of the Daytona 500, just couldn't quite make it to the end. I believe he had a top 10 at Talladega. Had Bubba winning yesterday. Yeah, I did too. Oh, well, it looked like a genius if he did win too. This was post-qualifying and practice when I make my predictions, though. That's why I don't make them during the week, because I have to see. I would not have picked Bubba Wallace if he didn't show up with that kind of speed this weekend, but when he showed up with that kind of speed on top of his consistency so far this year, that's why I picked him to win. I don't think I would have picked him to win if he wasn't on the pole or near it, as well as towards the top of the practice charts as well. Side-by-side lap traffic right in front of Dale Jr. It's not a rush to get around these cars, though, with him having a 1-lap lead on the field. We'll be at lap 75 this time by, which means we're almost 38 laps into this run in just a couple laps. I think we got a little loose going into turn 3 that time. And we'll see if we get more cars that hit pit road over the next few laps. It is lap 76. They do go the full run. Obviously, Dale Jr. will have to pit before anybody else the next time around. May lose the lead, being on a little bit older tires. And Truex looks to be on his way into the pits this time by. I'm not sure if that is a scheduled stop or not. He is the only one in the pits as of right now. Tough to tell for sure as we're at lap 79. Haven't seen anybody else try to pit yet. Lap 80 this time by. And we do have more cars in the pit. So yeah, there's some sort of a game glitch tonight where, for whatever reason, we're seeing drivers pit every 38 to 39 laps. And at lap 79, we're starting to see drivers pit for a second time today, and Dale Jr. hasn't even pitted once yet. Watch potential calamity. We saw Mark Martin get into the wall earlier, coming out of the pit lane, or right before he got into the pits, actually. We'll see if that's going to end up happening again, potentially. He's going to trap everybody else another lap down. Couple cars coming out side by side, nearly. Jeff Gordon, Matt Kenseth. Into turns 3 and 4. Dale Jr. gets by the 109 car, who's trying to get up to speed towards turns 1 and 2. Jr. just hitting halfway out of the gas as drivers are pitting for their second time already today. Jr. may go on to lead all 500 laps. Has to lead 394 laps today to eclipse the 2,000 laps led mark on the season through these first 24 races. It's possible in a longer 500 lap race like Bristol. Edwards cycles right in front of Gordon behind his teammate Matt Kenseth. Junior onto the brakes pretty heavily into turn 3 to keep from running into the back of Kurt Busch, who was just exiting pit road that time. Trouble nearly turns 1 and 2. Another car into the outside wall. Looked like there was contact with another bright yellow car up the way as well that nearly caused the accident. I think Elliott Sadler might have had contact in that. Maybe Matt Kenseth. Junior dropping in line behind the 77 to Quaffle. He's definitely going to have older tires compared to drivers that are out there now if he didn't before. Oscar Ramirez Herrera, welcome to the stream. Keselowski could win Daytona. That's also true. I mean, theoretically, Corey LaJoie could win Daytona. I don't know if he's going to be in the top 30 in points if he did, but he's had good runs in super speedways the last calendar year. Multiple times at that. Well, 2-lap lead now for Dale Jr. They're going to end up pitting a third time then before Dale Jr. even pits once. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. In this case, Dale Jr. might be on the lucky side of things as he just got the wall off turn 2 and then Joe Nemechek ran into the back of him. Jr. hangs on to the race car though. That a 3-lap lead on the field. We can alternate through the different camera angles for the first time in the race today. Junior's just got to make sure he doesn't get ran over. All these guys are going to be pitting. It's basically going to be constantly on older tires for almost the entirety of this race. Held his own on 40-lap older tires, but 80 not so much. He's got a lot of pressure from behind from Joe Nemechek, Jimmy Johnson, Ryan Newman also behind the 48 car. No, I don't buy a scanner. Or rent a scanner. Yesterday would have actually been nice for one because the loudspeakers at the track were actually down for about the first 50 laps of the race. They were even down during the national anthem. I had no clue the national anthem was going on until like... Because I didn't get up to my seat still right as it was happening. I had no clue it was going on until I was like, wait, everybody's standing. Hang on, hang on. Oh, okay. Better take my hat off. Jimmy Johnson closing in on Jimmy Spencer. Spencer's got quite a bit of damage to the right rear corner panel of his car. That might have been the car that ended up in the outside wall a dozen laps ago or so. So we've seen Calamity a couple times in the middle of green flag pit stops with no actual caution for it. So far, at least. We are at lap 100 in the Sharpie 500 Bristol Night Race. Dale Jr. pacing the field right now, and if you're wondering why he's got a 3-lap lead, it's because everybody has pitted twice except for Jr., who has not pitted at all. All under green flag conditions so far, as we haven't had a caution. And I'm not sure why exactly the field is pitting every 38 to 39 laps, but they are, which will also be interesting if we get any cautions, if drivers will continue to pit like that all the way to the end of the race or not. Even before the power outage it was happening, so it wasn't like for whatever reason, you know, the power being knocked out caused the game to do this. It was right from the original start of the race that this was happening as well. Haven't seen this at any racetrack this season in any series, including Bristol in both the Truck Busch and the Cup race, but for whatever reason in this Cup race, in which is the second Bristol race, the Bristol Night Race, we are seeing this happen. I'm sure that would be very comical to listen to Kyle Busch on the radio the entire race. Jimmy Spencer did get around the 178 car. Dale Jr. has not been able to pass anybody since they all came out of the pits that second time. But he also hasn't been passed by anybody himself either. He's stuck behind the 178 car trying to get a run on him right now. He may get underneath him into turn 1. Not quite. Now he's underneath him, looking to make a pass. And it'll be a clean one at that. Junior's only gotten into the wall one time, and he's only hit another car twice in 108 laps. Pretty impressively clean race going for him so far. 178. Try to cross him over through turns 3 and 4. Oh, trouble on the backstretch. Somebody nearly got turned. Dale Jr. into the back of Jimmy Spencer. Pretty hard at that, but we continue to stay green. A couple cars got together. And there was nothing but smoke. And Junior could not see, and on jamming the brakes, looks like that right front tire's in the yellow now. Pretty good lick into the back of Spencer's race car. Hopefully that doesn't slow Dale Jr. down too much. Even though he's got a pretty big lead. Talked about things happening quick right here at Bristol earlier today, and that was something that definitely happened so quick. This is how it felt to be Richard Petty, yeah. Junior's going to have over 100 lap older tires than the rest of the field when they pit, likely at about lap 120 again. You know, Junior can run this out till pretty close to about lap 160 before he has to hit pit road. The cars side by side, there is definitely a lot of traffic in front of Dale Jr. after that stack up we saw off turn 2 a little bit ago. Junior looking low underneath Jimmy Spencer. Can't quite get underneath him that time. With this being the running order it is right now. Oh, we got somebody blowing up on the bottom of the racetrack. Couldn't tell who that was. It looked like it might have been the 178 car who Junior had passed during this run. But either way, one car has just blown an engine. That's the first driver to exit from today's race. Martin Church Jr. on his way into the pits. He's been one of the first cars to hit pit road every time, so we are seeing green flag pit stops now for the 3rd time today with this game glitch, and hopefully there's no wreck. I mean, that's one thing. Dale Jr. still has to finish this race, and we have seen a lot of cars getting together, causing stack-ups, nearly wrecking in today's race. I would not doubt that we are going to go through this race caution-free. The way things have gone so far, and especially in the middle of the green flag pit stops, is where we've seen the most contact, it seems like, between cars that nearly cause accidents. Junior's got to be on high alert to miss everything possible. If he could pit under cautions, that would probably be ideal, rather than pitting under green, especially the way things are going right now. Jeff Gordon will dive on into the pits. If we get caution to the middle of green flag stops, that'll only shake the running order up itself even more. There's going to be at least 4 laps ahead of the field now, once everybody else cycles through, if we cycle through. Kevin Harvick, Terry Labonte been side by side for a couple laps in a row. Not too many cars have entered pit road so far. Kenseth will now make the big left-hand turn. Michael Waltrip for DEI on pit road currently, lap 124. Ricky Rudd, Bobby Labonte just coming out of the pits. Another car down on the bottom trying to come out of the pits as well. And it looks like Kyle Busch into turns 3 and 4. Will get underneath John Andretti where he'll merge. Quarter tank of gas left for Dale Jr. right now. Jimmy Spencer right in front of Earnhardt will pit. There's a lot of damage on the back of that 14 car of John Andretti, it appears. Deck lid way up in the air. Michael Waltrip trying to get off of pit road while Mike Bliss was coming in, and Bliss nearly turned the 15 car right back up the racetrack again. Luckily that did not happen, and we continue to stay green for now. Terry Labonte coming in. He gets into the back of Kevin Harvick trying to exit pit road. Labonte trying to get to the backstretch pit lane. Similar to what happened with Waltrip just a couple laps prior. Guess that's pretty easy to have happen when you have two separate pit lanes like at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Junior on the outside trying to steer clear of Rusty Wallace, Scott Wimmer, who were just coming out of the pits. Junior almost in the wall off turn 2, had to get out of the throttle. And now Newman trying to pounce all over Kevin Harvick for position. Those two just outside the cutoff line coming into the race today if they're going to want to make it into this chase. And Ryan Newman will actually pit that time by. Ricky Rudd now looking to the inside of Harvick. Oh my goodness. Rusty Wallace into the back of Shane Meal. Dale Jr. had to get to the outside. And he ended up in the outside wall in the middle of turns 1 and 2 trying to get away from those two cars that nearly wrecked. Directly in front of him. National Anthem was pretty laughably bad on the broadcast. Definitely the worst you've seen. What, just with like the performance, or was the audio off? Was the audio off on NBC's end too, or was it just Michigan? So I wonder if maybe the storms that came through prior to that, 'cause there was pretty good downfall with rain. I wonder if that played into it. I couldn't hear it at all with the speakers being out, to be completely honest. And they had the flyover on scheduled time, so during the rain delay, while it was still raining outside, the planes were flying over the racetrack at about like 3:15-ish, maybe just before that. Like they were on their scheduled time even though it was raining outside. Kudos to them for still being in the air during those heavy storms though too. Of a slide getting into turns 3 and 4. We'll take our first field pass of the race today. We'll see where Michael Waltrip's at in the running order right now. Currently he is in 20 at 6 laps down. We're going to take quite a few field passes in this race today because in the last 2 races we have not been able to do so. And it looks like Dale Jr. will pit for the first time at lap 132. So Dale Jr. is into pit for the first time today while we are not running as Dale Jr. Some of these guys got to get couple of their laps back. Waltrip should be able to get back to 4 laps down, I'd have to imagine. Kevin Harvick, Scott Wimmer just made a little bit of contact. Harvick put the bump and run to Wimmer. Waltrip on the inside of Ricky Rudd for position. Oh, got into him, trying to squeeze into line. There was no hole to do so. All over the place now, trying to get around Wimmer as he got into his left rear corner panel. Waltrip not going to pass Wimmer for position as Dale Jr. emerges back onto the racetrack. Still a few laps ahead of everybody right now. And we'll go back to Martin Truex Jr. in the field and see where the 1 car is at. And currently Truex is a little bit further behind Waltrip in the 24th place position. Butchered the high notes. Yeah, I didn't hear anything about that, honestly. Probably did better than what I could, though. I'll give him credit. Probably better than what I'd be able to do performance-wise if I was singing in front of like 60 to 80,000 people. Or more. Guess when you include all the camping and stuff, it was probably more than that. I wouldn't doubt that there were 100,000 people at the facility this weekend. Go back to Dale Jr. this coming lap. Truex trying to get around Dale Jarrett for position. Jarrett comes in 20th in points. First driver that would have been eliminated from chase contention coming into the race today. And we'll take a little bit of a field pass once again to Earnhardt, who has a 3-lap lead. A little bit fresher tires on the rest of the field as we run right now as well. And we will take our second field pass. Or sorry, not second field pass, but second alternating through the different camera angles. 24 likes on the stream already, and we are not even to lap 150 yet. Some of that might be because of the power outage that we had earlier, kind of delaying the start of this race about a good 50 minutes or so. Top 3 finishers on the Fantasy League yesterday, awesome. Kevin Harvick was in my garage, unfortunately. I tried to get him into my lineup because Kyle Busch was out of the race, but I didn't have any internet connection at the track, so unfortunately I couldn't get into it and change it out. So I did remember to change it this week, but being at the track, unable to actually change the lineup like I wanted to. So I had Busch in my lineup who had 1 point, Harvick who had like 40 or 45 points. I think he had 45 points yesterday with his win. Had some stage points. Engineer closing in on Boris Said right now. Toxic Punk Young Boy, welcome to the stream. Junior being very patient. Again, he's got a pretty big lead on the rest of the field right now. Everybody's been pitting about every 40 laps, not Earnhardt. Earnhardt has already made his first stop of the day, but everybody else has already pitted 3 times. And they'll probably be pitting a 4th before long. Tony Stewart just passed Jimmy Johnson, likely for position. Out of the rear view of Dale Jr. Trying to close in on Dale. Had to put Kyle Busch in the garage. Oh, Bell almost screwed him. Well, he did in the sense that he didn't have as good of a finish as he probably could have had. Junior trying to get around Boris Said finally with Tony Stewart starting to close in just a little bit. And he'll be able to clear 7 with a clean pass through turns 1 and 2. Mark Truex Jr. is already back on the pit road again. 4th time today we are seeing pit stops. Tony Stewart all over the back bumper of Dale Jr. We're not really going to be able to tell if Dale Jr. is going to have the best long run car in the race today. All the varying strategies. Just got to hope and pray that the cautions play out correctly and he doesn't get caught up in any and he's able to make it to the finish of this race. He'll have a shot to win it for sure. May have a chance to go wire to wire from the pole, which at Bristol I wouldn't have thought was possible. It surely can be today. Junior looking to get around Jeff Green in the 43 car now. Kyle Busch exiting pit road down on the bottom. Junior clears Green. Busch gets into Travis Quaffle in turns 3 and 4 as he wedges his way down underneath him. Definitely going to have to be careful passing cars on the inside that he doesn't know if they have pitted or not. We know Kyle Busch has already pitted, but we don't know about Quaffle. Quaffle trying to get into the pits. I saw somebody else exiting the pits. I don't think they made contact. Took Cindric out of the lineup. At least that wreck was early enough that had the ability to be able to do that versus if it happened in the final stage. Checking up, and we have caution for the first time today at lap 169. Our first caution of the race at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Scott Wimmer into the wall, into Scott Riggs, and then Jason Leffler got a piece of it on the bottom. So Kyle Petty as well. Wimmer tried to pull down the track too early, and he slammed right into the right side of Kyle Petty's race car. So 4-car accident. Look to be in turns 1 and 2, which will bring out the caution flag. Dale Jr. will pit during the yellow, as well, I'm sure, every other driver who has not pit yet. So second stop of the day for Earnhardt, first under caution, so he can get a bit more out of his car this time around. $169 laps before the first caution today at Bristol. I did not see any of the IndyCar highlights. I did not get to watch it at all. I could have looked at it this morning, but I actually kind of forgot about the race being this weekend. Dale Jr. again, the only car in the lead lap. Not sure if anybody was able to get the wave around. We know one car would have gotten the free pass. Green flag back in the air. Jimmy Johnson, probably that first car that is 2 laps down. A little contact. Junior trying to get to the bottom initially, and he tried to squeeze Jimmy Johnson down the racetrack to get to the inside. He wasn't able to do it. Now he's going to try to let Rusty Wallace around him so he can get in line behind Wallace. Smart move as he pulls down in front of Jeff Burton in the 31. And we've got cars pitting. So I guess those cars that didn't pit yet before the caution pitted after the yellow. Or at least one of them did. We'll see if we get any more to follow. Junior back to the inside of Rusty Wallace in the 2. A little contact. And Wallace into the wall off turn 2 after that bump and run from Earnhardt Jr. Back to a 3-lap lead again. I think that was second place. He just hit pit road. Whoever had gotten the free pass. And Junior on fresh tires, trying to rip around this racetrack as he's done all night long so far. And Ty Gibbs getting that first career top 10 was impressive yesterday. 3 starts. And that's with 23-11 too. I mean, if you consider the fact, I mean, some people are saying like that's Joe Gibbs equipment. Yes, while they are getting stuff from Joe Gibbs Racing, they're affiliated. You can definitely tell by the speed in the 45 and the 23 throughout the course of the season that they're catching up, but they're still not there yet. They're still a B-level team. They're not a top-tier Toyota team yet, or right there with Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, they've been both outside the top 10 in points. Even Kurt Busch was only like 14th or so in points before his concussion. Junior really low in the middle of the corner. He actually got it to stick from middle to exit as he tries to get under Jimmy Johnson. Nearly making contact with the 48 car. Johnson into the wall off turn 2. Junior didn't get into him. It was a clean pass. Johnson may have gotten pinched, but he had an opportunity to lift to keep from hitting the wall and didn't do it. Junior puts him another lap down. Lap 183 in today's Bristol night race. We'll take our second field pass this time by at the start-finish line. Dale Jr.'s got some clean air, and we'll see where Martin Truex Jr. is at in the field right now. And currently Truex is back to 25th. Still a lot of damage on the back bumper of John Andretti's race car from something that may have happened. I wonder if he might have caused that stack up off turn 2 earlier. Potentially. Truex into Mayfield, bumping him up out of the way, gaining a couple positions since we transferred to him. John Andretti not going to be a spot. Truex will slide job his way around him. Good chance Truex is going to be eliminated from chase contention after tonight's race regardless, especially if I'm back in the 22nd place position right now. Not helping himself in any way, shape, or form. He had a great start to the year, but he'll still be trying to go for a Busch Series title. Too deep in turns 3 and 4 as he had a big slide and was unable to get around Tony Stewart as a result. Still can't quite clear him off turn 2. Now he'll be clear into 3 as he gets underneath Casey Kane into 9. And Kane will be for a spot. One more lap will go to Michael Waltrip. And it's weird, too, because if you look at Truex's fuel tank right now, it's showing full still, so it's definitely not like they're burning that much fuel for some random reason at the track today. Something glitchy is definitely happening with why everybody else has been hitting pit road when they have. Swapping back to Michael Waltrip right now. He is in the 32nd place position. He is already eliminated from chase contention and has been outside the top 25 in points almost all season. This is last year with DEI before he goes to run for his own team. Michael Waltrip racing in the 55 car. We go to NASCAR 07. Down the road. Getting around Martin for 30th. Past Kenny Walsh just before that as well for position. Dives under Casey Mears in the 41. That's going to be a spot. One car blowing up on the bottom of the racetrack right now. And couldn't tell who that was. It was a yellow car of some sort. I don't know if that was maybe Greg Biffle, who's in the Subway Ford today. It looked like it could have been Biffle. Kenseth potentially, obviously, in a brighter yellow car. And we'll go back to Dale Jr. now, who leads this race. He's got Jimmy Johnson all over his back bumper. We're at lap 195. Still has a pretty decent-sized lead. Jimmy Johnson, Carl Edwards battling right now for position. Likely, at least. Ace Moneymaker, welcome to the stream. Wish we knew where Stuart Gordon and Edwards are. Yeah, it's harder to tell with everybody being as many laps down as they are. But Dale Jr. definitely looking to pick up the easiest max points that you could possibly ask or imagine for. And I will say, with that, I mean, he needs it. Coming in off that DNF in Michigan, where he finished 41st, even though he led some laps. I mean, obviously, it's still not a good finish. He lost points to Edwards, even if it wasn't a lot, and he lost 2 spots in the standings. With a win today, no matter what, he'll pass Stewart in the standings. And we have Martin Truex Jr. now hitting pit road, by the way. Might be Biffle, I believe. Yeah, that'll hurt Biffle. I mean, he's 5th in the regular season standings. He'll definitely lose some spots. Still a couple hundred points above the cutoff line, so I don't think he'll be in any danger of missing the chase as long as he doesn't have something similar happen the next couple races, which isn't impossible. Biffle still has yet to win since the Daytona 500 at the beginning of the season. We'll scrape into the wall off turn 2 for Dale Jr. that time. Will be 200 laps complete at the line. Truex Jr. has been one of the first cars onto pit road almost every single time, trying to gain a little bit more track position of those that are going to pit again. here soon. Danger of getting trapped an extra lap down, though, if we get a caution in the middle of green flag stops like we did at lap 169. I'm still waiting for John Andretti to lose that deck plate off his race car. There's no way he's going to ride around for over 300 laps with that damage. Unless he comes onto pit road and is able to repair it. That was the second time we've seen him in the field since the pit stop started. And he still hasn't changed it yet. Dale Jr. on the outside of Kyle Petty. Oh man, overdrove the corner. Cost himself some time there in turns 3 and 4. Got a bit of the wall because he entered on the outside. Kind of wasn't expecting to, and he couldn't get it to stick. Kyle Busch coming out of the pits down the bottom. He didn't want to run right in the back of the 5 car, obviously. California and Richmond, the next 2 and final 2 races of the regular season in the battle to see who will be the #1 seed heading into the playoffs / chase. Ethan, welcome into the stream. That is true. I guess a deck lid would probably stay on. Junior just going to check up. Almost got into Mike Bliss. He checked up and still almost got into him. Bliss is definitely a driver that doesn't need a DNF. He lost 1 spot in the standings after a poor finish at Michigan. Little contact between Jimmy Johnson, Dale Jr., and the caution comes out immediately after. Not for that contact, but somewhere else around the track we have a yellow. Couple cars. Oh, one into the tire barrier. Can't tell who that is from that angle. Maybe Jeremy Mayfield? It is Jeremy Mayfield. Got spun off the front bumper of Elliott Sadler. I think Elliott Sadler was trying to get off of the pit lane while Sadler was coming in. Or, sorry, Sadler coming out while Mayfield was coming in. And Dale Jr. is just going to stay out of the pits this time. He pitted not that long ago. So he'll stay out. And we'll try this again. So 2 cautions in today's race now. Green flag back in the air at Bristol, lap 213. Try to get to the bottom a little bit cleaner this time, if at all possible, but he's in the wall. Biffle's paint scheme changed. He was in the subway car, but now he's in the National Guard car after the power outage, so he definitely isn't the driver that DNF'd. Junior trying to get to the bottom. Now Carl Edwards is there. Junior got into the wall on that outside lane. He's definitely not able to run the outside very well today. His car is good in handling, but not on the top lane. Old Bristol really wasn't a top lane. And with no other cars in the lead lap, that's why everybody's able to train around him as they are. John Andretti right behind the 8. Contact with the back of Elliott Sadler that time. Actually kind of helped Sadler. It pushed him past the 99 of Edwards and clear on the front straightaway. Dale Jr. trying to get around Edwards now. Not quite going to happen. Now he'll get underneath the 99 car. Edwards into the wall off turn 2. He couldn't hold the outside either, and Junior will clear him into 3 and 4. Jetty not able to follow Earnhardt to get by either. We'll alternate through the different camera angles again in today's race. We're doing this a lot in today's race in particular due to not being able to do it really in the last 2 races. Watkins Glen because it was a wreck fest and we ran almost half the race under caution, and then in the last race Dale Jr. DNF'd at lap 51 at Michigan. Another car onto pit road as we speak. It did not pit during the caution. I will say, though, these cautions are allowing for some of these drivers to not lose extra laps because not everybody's able to cycle all the way through green flag pit stops. Dale Jr. continues to try and close in on Elliott Sadler. A little mistake getting a bit too wide off of turn 2 that last lap. Sadler 11th in points. He climbed up 3 spots in the standings after that last race, and he's 100 points below the cutoff line coming into tonight's race. Does he have a shot to point his way in? Remember, it was on NASCAR 05 where he had a bunch of engine failures towards the end and ended up missing the chase as a result. And the one season we did have a chase in there before the custom schedule season. It's going to be the only season with a chase format in this game because our second season will be a custom schedule season as well. Therefore, we'll run a full season points format. Oh, yeah, you're right. Jimmy Spencer might have been the yellow car that blew an engine earlier. Sadler going to get by Biffle in the 16. Dale Jr. right in line behind the Biff. Into turns 3 and 4, looking to the inside. He is underneath Biffle off the exit of turn 4. Looking to make the pass now into turns 1 and 2. Biffle on the outside. Sadler kind of running a bit wide himself in the middle of the corner, really stalling Biffle out of line. Edwards to the inside of the Biff. Dale Jr. gets into Sadler a little bit that time as he makes a bump and run pass on him through turns 3 and 4. And finally clears him into turns 1 and 2, it looks. And Edwards will get to the inside of the 38 car as well. Dale Jr. to the inside of Rusty Wallace. Kind of got knocked out of the way by Earnhardt. Second time Dale Jr.'s put a bump and run to Wallace in today's race. Both right after the restarts. Go back to the far chase cam for now. Also alternate back with Michael Waltrip and Martin Truex Jr. We'll get back to the start-finish line this time by. And we'll start off with the one of Truex, who is back in 33rd now. So he continues to lose spots with those 2 cautions coming out when they have so far today. And Dale Jr. will pit. He'll still be a couple laps ahead of the field. At least 1, maybe 2 laps ahead yet. Truex on the inside of Jeff Green in the 43 car. Clears him off the exit of turn 2. Truex slides around Ricky Rudd now as well. Barrel roll today, Feces Fight. Welcome to the stream. Truex in 31st, 6 laps down. Dale Jr. has led every lap so far from the pole today at Bristol. We'll go back to Michael Waltrip in the 15 car. Waltrip back to 36 as he continues to lose a bunch of spots. Also 6 laps down. Trying to get around Casey Mears right now. That's not for position. And caution's out. I just saw debris. I'm not sure whose car that came off of, but debris on the racetrack has just brought out our 3rd caution of the race. And it might have been off the car right in front of Waltrip. No, yeah, it was. Jason Leffler, his hood had fallen off. I thought I saw it come off from a car just in front of Waltrip, so caution is out for the 3rd time today. And we're going to have Michael Waltrip pit during this caution because that might keep the likelihood of him staying out a little bit longer, and if we potentially get another caution in the middle of green flag pit stops, I think that could help the 15 car gain some spots. So that's what we're going to be hoping for here. Malachi Coate, welcome to the stream. Dale's probably on the same like AI strategy everybody else is, of pitting about every 40 laps, and we're going to see a lot of cars pit this time rather than just Waltrip. So maybe we should have stayed out, but didn't think that was going to happen. 4 tires and fuel for Mikey. Very interesting. We're seeing some cars stay out, but some of them on pit road. A lot of them on pit road, really. Our third caution at Bristol today. First for debris. Not sure where Leffler got all of his damage from. Maybe it was from a couple of the guys that have gotten into the wall. Maybe he could have been one of them throughout the course of today's race. Dale Jr. still going to be the leader on the restart, though. And we will be heading to our third restart of the race. Green flag back in the air. Single file through most of the field right now. Just swapped the Waltrip before that happened. Some cars finally getting side by side with one another again. Waltrip to the inside of Jarrett. Underneath him, a little contact getting into turn 3. Waltrip just clear off turn 4. Up in front of the 88 car now. It's kind of a good timing caution, though, for whoever would have been at second, who would have gotten a lap or 2 back, and then Dale Jr. obviously, they would have gotten a lap or 2 back with pitting, then another lap back with the free pass because of that caution. Go back to Earnhardt. And, of course, Dale Jr. is again in the lead. It doesn't look like he is a full lap ahead anymore. He was at 1.3 laps ahead. And now it's a 7.7 second lead. These cautions keep coming out. That's allowing guys to get the free pass. And it is allowed for at least one other car to get back on the lead lap with that most recent yellow. Dale Jr.'s got the clean air, though, off this restart. Probably better that the AI was in charge of that last restart, I guess. And we are almost halfway home. When we get there, you guys will get to try to answer tonight's trivia question in Bristol Track Fact. Biffle keeping up with Dale Jr. right now. He originally qualified second. 14.882 fastest lap thus far. Well, Jr. on somewhat fresher tires. That probably helps, I'm sure. Clean air. Halfway home. And that means that Dale Jr. has already clinched the most laps led in today's race. Leading every lap from the pole so far. Cautions have played out in a good way thus far. He's been able to miss it as he's really been nowhere around any of the yellows. Tonight's trivia question on the channel is, there are 2 races in NASCAR Cup Series history at Bristol that have had more than 30 lead changes. Which driver won both of those races? That is today's trivia question on the channel. No hints, and the answer has to be given in the chat by lap 270. At the end of lap 270, I'll give you the answer if you don't get it before. So again, tonight's trivia question is, there are 2 races in the Cup Series at Bristol that there has been more than 30 lead changes. Who won both of those races? It is not Jeff Gordon. 8.5 second lead right now for Dale Jr. as we run. I'll take another field pass, I guess, while we're waiting here. Up at the front of the field, Michael Waltrip wasn't 36th on that last restart. He's made his way to 31st now. For pitting during the caution to take a little bit fresher tires than some of the cars that did not pit. It is not Kyle Busch either. Interested to see where Truex is running after that last caution as well. Get to see here in a matter of moments. Potentially Michael Waltrip down underneath of Jimmy Spencer, who is still in the race. So Spencer did not DNF. Trapping Spencer behind Kevin Harvick. That pass on Spencer was also for position for Waltrip. Jason Leffler still without a hood after bringing out that debris caution, which was the last yellow. It is not Petty. Yeah, if there is a driver with the same last name, you have to be specific, but it's not any of the Pettys. And we'll drive now as Truex. And as of right now, Truex is in 35th, so he's on the same lap as Waltrip. It's one of the cars Waltrip passed since the restart. Couple positions, though, right in front of the one car. But we'll contact Dale Jarrett into the back of Ricky Rudd. Trying to move him up out of the way. Truex following Jarrett to get by Rudd himself. So they both clear him off turn 4. Truex down low, trying to pull off a slide job on Jarrett. Clears him off turn 2 for 33rd. Jimmy Spencer battling back on Waltrip for the time being. Looked like there may have been contact at turns 3 and 4 up ahead. Truex looking low now under Jamie McMurray. Clear. Truex to the inside of Waltrip for position. And it'll be clear of the 15 car. Oh, Spencer tried to chop down on Truex. Got into him, didn't realize the one car was already underneath him getting into turn 1. Nearly caused an accident there. And we'll swap back to Dale Earnhardt Jr. now in the field, who still leads at lap 269. Mark, you have gotten the answer right with your answer, I guess. Rusty Wallace is the driver who won both of the Bristol races in the NASCAR Cup Series that had more than 30 lead changes. The only 2 races at Bristol in NASCAR history that had more than 30 lead changes, Rusty Wallace won both of them. So you did get tonight's trivia question correct. Congrats. The years, by the way, were 1989 and 1991, where Rusty Wallace won those 2 races. Frank Eady. Junior's extended this lead out to 10 seconds. He's definitely had more clean air in front of him than the second place car, who had to restart at the tail end of the longest line after getting the free pass during that third and most recent caution. All 3 cautions in the race have come since lap 169. Caution free to start the race up to that lap. NASCAR Pepsi Cup Series Racing, welcome to the stream. We'll be racing Bristol under the lights again tomorrow. It will be a Busch Series race under the lights at Bristol, 250 laps if I'm not mistaken. And I do it for Dale Series race there. 10 races to go in the Busch Series going into tomorrow night's race at Bristol. And our coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time live on KRC. Caution's out for the 4th time today at lap 277. We'll see what it is for. Looked like there's a lot of smoke on the back straightaway. It looked to be an accident. And it looks like Ricky Rudd has gone around off the exit of turn 2. Contact with the car on his outside. Looked like he got into Jamie McMurray in the 42 car. That was right in front of both of the DEI cars of Waltrip and Truex, who we just left off with. Bobby Labonte as well, but they were all able to get on their brakes in time. So Dale Jr. will pit during the caution flag. Everybody else looking like they're going to stay out. No adjustments coming to the 8 car this time, but he is on pit road. It'll be interesting to see if second place stayed out or pit, because if they stayed out, they're going to get 5 bonus points, and they'll be in the lead on the restart. But a little bit past halfway now, following this 4th yellow. And I will say the cautions are definitely making things possible that Dale Jr. isn't a lock to win this race. And there are a lot of other cars on pit road right now other than just Dale Jr., but Jr. will win the race out of the pits on all the lap cars and potential lead lap cars. But it looks like Jimmy Johnson stayed out, and Jimmy Johnson will be the leader, as he was the other car in the lead lap. Somebody else probably on the lead lap now as well with the free pass. But they'll be at the tail end of the longest line, which would be the inside line for the restart. Green flag back in the air. Johnson getting 5 bonus points, leading his first lap. Both Johnson and Earnhardt stuck on the outside. Junior into the wall off turn 2 after making contact with Ryan Newman. Tried to turn down to the bottom in a hole that was there behind the 12 car. And he turned a little too early and costed himself. Well, we've got a legitimate race for the first time today with just over 200 laps to go. Yeah, it's not Carl Edwards, Tony Stewart, or Jeff Gordon, so probably better for Earnhardt's sake that it wasn't one of those other 3 drivers and it was Johnson, who is inside the cutoff line right now somewhat comfortably. But trying to get his first win of the season, he is the highest running driver in the point standings without a win at 6th. We have had 10 different winners so far this season. Well, 3 wide now. Dale Jr. underneath both Penske cars of Rusty Wallace and Ryan Newman. Will they make it off the exit of turn number 2? And it looks like they do. Good job by all those guys not making contact with one another. Dale Jr. trying to close in on Jimmy Johnson. I think it's pretty safe to say Jr.'s got one of, if not the fastest car in the field. First time he has not led, so he will not go wire to wire. But we don't know exactly when Jimmy Johnson may potentially pit next as well. And I doubt that that was the last caution. All 4 of them have come out within a 150 lap stretch. I gave up the lead because I have a couple more field passes left that I want to get through. And I know that when I transfer out, there isn't a chance of Dale Jr. pitting then. And I know I could go a lot further knowing that they're going to have to pit a couple more times yet before the end of the race on their strategy. So that's why I pitted. Because on my strategy, I would still have to pit twice before the end of the race, even if the AI didn't pit for me. Now I only have to pit once. So I'm fine with giving up the lead, knowing there wasn't that many cars on the lead lap. I'm fine with it. Now Junior's got fresher tires than Johnson. He's got a faster car, and he's looking to get around him. Looking low off turn 4. Junior got a little loose. He was really low off the exit of the corner. Had all 4 tires down in the black. Had only 2 tires down below that time. Not as loose, and he's underneath Johnson into turn 3. Trying to make a clean pass on the 48 car. Races him straight up, and Dale Jr. is clear off turn 4, and at lap 292 is back out in front under the lights at Bristol. Johnson on the attack right now. And we'll take that second to last field pass of the race now as we'll go back to Michael Waltrip in traffic, who is in the 34th place position currently. And stuck on the outside with Jamie McMurray right behind him. Michael Waltrip racing underneath of Michael Waltrip himself. Kenny Wallace in the 00 Dream Machine. That was for position, by the way, so Mikey looking to get back by Kenny and clear him back through turns 1 and 2 for 35th. Waltrip underneath of McMurray. Earnhardt continuing to lead on Jimmy Johnson right now. Nothing like watching pretty much anything TV related and eating some popcorn. Waltrip's gained a few positions, just got into Jarrett. Squeezed Jarrett into the wall off turn 2. And we'll ride as the 1 of Martin Truex Jr. now. Lap 293 for him, looking to gain some of those same positions that Waltrip just did. Maybe even to actually get up and pass Waltrip for a spot as well. Truex could still finish as high as 11th in the point standings, even though he's eliminated. Well, he's not eliminated from chase contention yet, but he likely will be at the end of the race, considering he's outside the top 30 right now and many, many laps down. Based off of how his strategy has gone so far. Truex on the inside of the 15 of Waltrip, way too far down low though. Got really loose and up into his teammate. And Waltrip going to lose a spot to not only Truex, but Dale Jarrett as well, who gets back around him. Truex way too low in the middle of the corner that time. And all cars he could have slid up into, right into the side of his teammate he's been battling for position with for a large portion of today's race. For race leader Dale Jr. right now, there is a little less than 200 laps to go under the lights at Bristol. One more lap will go back to Dale Jr. in our running order. But we'll stack up that time, causing Truex to get into the back of Kevin Harvick in the 29 car. Still about a 0.4 of a second lead for Dale Jr. over Jimmy Johnson at this juncture of the race. A lot of clean air in front of the 8 car. For getting around Johnson on the restart for the lead. And we'll alternate through the different camera angles now for the second to last time in today's race as well. Tony Stewart just making his way off of pit road. He's somebody that has pitted recently. Junior's still going to have to pit one more time for the end of the race. He can go about 160 laps on fuel, so his window will open up in about 30 more laps, give or take. Doesn't plan on pitting right when that window opens. You wonder, will Jimmy Johnson still have a chance? with the alternating strategy by everybody else in the field, you just wonder how the cautions are going to play out the rest of this race if we get any more, which I would have to imagine we will. I don't think we're going to stop at the 4. Does he have a chance of still winning this race? You know Jimmy Johnson's going to go hard to the very end, knowing he hasn't won a race yet this season. He's been close a couple times. Obviously, he's been very consistent, looking to make the chase due to that good consistency, and he'll find his way to victory lane at some point before the end of the year, you'd have to imagine, even though we have just 12 races to go after this one tonight. California, his home track, is one he is very good at. That's the next race on the schedule. Johnson was always good on the 1.5-mile tracks, especially when it came to chase time. I'm sure he could very well have a potential shot to win at a track like Atlanta or Texas for the end of the season yet as well. And we've got some of the other leaders on their way to pit road right now. Jimmy Johnson actually just pitted from second place. So he's in dire need of this race staying green for a very long time. Or at least at the hope that he only falls one lap down. Which he is a lap down right now as he is pitted on the backstretch. We'll see if he can cycle out of the pits before Dale Jr. would put him a second lap down or not. It was only 0.7 of a second off the race lead when he hit pit road. Johnson just getting out of his pit box right now. And he's getting back up onto the racing surface. There's Jimmy Johnson. Here's Dale Jr. Jr. going to race hard. Wants to put him another lap down, but he's not quite going to catch him yet going into turns 3 and 4. Martin Truex Jr. now into the pits. So Johnson trying to desperately stay in front of Earnhardt. He's got fresher tires on the 8 car, but in case we get a caution. And there's the yellow trouble going into turns 1 and 2. One car is around into the outside wall, and that's the caution Jimmy Johnson needed to get his lap back. Oh, Truex just punts Scott Riggs up the track and knocked him right into an oncoming car, which I believe was the 40 of Sterling Marlin. Second accident Riggs has been involved in today. Truex just punted Riggs right into the 41 car. So Dale Jr. going to stay out of the pits. He pitted during that last caution. There's the 5th yellow of the race today. I don't think that had anything to do with cars pitting or coming out of the pits like the last yellow did. A couple of them have so far today, but the green flag back in the air. Junior into the wall on the restart. It's been hit or miss on that outside lane so far today on the restarts. Definitely didn't work out for him there. 175 laps still to go. Junior did not pit because he is still outside the window to make it to the end of the race. So still a one-stopper yet and wanted to hang on to that lead. It's 5 seconds ahead of Jimmy Johnson, who just got his lap back. I'd have to assume it was Johnson who got his lap back during that caution flag period right after he exited pit road and was right in front of Dale Jr. Just a fast enough stop by that 48 team to allow that strategy to play off. Now they didn't have to pit during the yellow. And he's got a little bit fresher tires by about 40 laps than Dale Jr. right now, so he's going to really try to run him back down. Jr. will get around Rusty Wallace in turns 1 and 2. That pass started in 3 and 4 the lap before. Greg Biffle, Jeff Burton, nose to tail. Dale Jr. dominated Richmond earlier this season as well, so that definitely could be a racetrack in which Dale Jr. could win before the end of the regular season. If he could seal the deal today, which so far he has led over 300 of the 330 laps. Has a chance to win 11 races just off of those two, not even counting what could possibly happen at California, which Dale Jr. won at California on fuel mileage earlier this year. Though that was a 50% race, winning that second race of the year at California. This will be a 100% 500-mile race. First race was 250 miles at the California Speedway in Fontana. Trying to get around Biffle, who has the clean air for right now. Dale Jr. all over the back of the Biff. Looking low off the exit of turn 2. Now staying into turn 3. He is going to clear Biffle off turn 4. Kind of overdrive the corner just a little bit. Still one more field pass yet in today's race. And we're going to do that right now while we're still somewhat early enough in this one. And we'll go back to Michael Waltrip in the field, who was up to 25th. So he actually benefited with that last yellow. He's still 6 laps down. And Dale Jr. will pit from the lead. I don't think he is within the fuel window, though, to make it to the end of the race. It's going to be really close. That'll give Jimmy Johnson his second lead of the day. Junior's already clinched the most laps led. He's going to put Dale a lap down. I'd have to assume he's going to be in second place. He'll be the first car lap down. So if we got a caution, you get the free pass right back. And if we stay green long enough, Johnson will be on pit road in less than 40 laps as well, based off the strategy by the rest of the AI. And this is our final field pass of the race so far today. We'll swap to Martin Truex Jr. now for the final time. Truex in 23rd, a couple spots ahead of Waltrip currently. So he benefited with that last caution as well. Well, he benefited from a caution he started when he just turned Riggs going into turn 3 right in front of Sterling Marlin. It's on the outside of both of them going into the corner. And in fact, Truex is only 5 laps down to Waltrip 6 as well. Truex down low, trying to take it 3 wide, potentially underneath Shane Meal. Got into Meal, knocked him up the racetrack. Truex nearly goes around, gets really loose, catches the race car in 3 and 4. Lost a position to either Mark Martin or Jeff Gordon. But he does hang on to the car just enough. Now he's right in front of Jimmy Johnson, who leads the race. So he may go 6 laps down here after all. Truex did a great job hanging on to his race car, looking to get back by the 6 of Martin. Deep dive into the corner. This is a battle for 23rd between the 1 and the 6 cars. And Truex will clear him in turns 3 and 4. One more lap and we'll go back to Dale Earnhardt Jr. the rest of the race. No problem, Billy. I obviously had my internet connection issues earlier in the stream too. Alright, so that was the final field pass. We'll drive as Dale Jr. the rest of the way. He's got a lot of clean air in front of him, just pitted under green flag conditions. And he is in second place despite being 1 lap down. Not sure how many other cars could potentially be 1 lap down either. And Jimmy Johnson is the leader. Five cautions. Still don't think we've seen the last one. We went 169 laps caution-free to start the race today, and we've seen 5 cautions in the last less than 200 laps. Kind of piling onto each other all of a sudden. Just over 150 laps still to go in the Sharpie 500 Bristol Night Race. Harvick pitted just as the caution flew. You thought he was a lap down. Well, Michigan's a big enough racetrack that he actually was able to remain on the lead lap when he had pitted when the caution came out. He wasn't up to speed yet when coming out of the pits before he could have lost his lap, like Chastain and Suarez, who pitted even before Harvick did when that happened. Now, Junior does get the free pass. He'll have to restart, not right directly behind Jimmy Johnson. So he might need 2 cautions to get back into it. If it does, well, if it stays green to the end, Johnson's going to have to pit no matter what at least one more time. Dale Jr. might have to pit another time. It's going to be really close on field for him to the end of the race. Well, no, we'll see. I feel like it wouldn't take a big hit to DNF John Andretti out of the race, considering he's had all that damage on the rear of the car, deck lid up in the air. That was, what, right around lap 100 when that happened, maybe even way before that, whenever we took that first field pass of the race today. Saw when we were driving as either Michael Waltrip or Martin Truex Jr. that first time. And Dale Jr. is going to catch the back of this lap traffic on his fresher tires and try to look to get around him relatively quicker. Probably one time where he probably doesn't want to be too patient trying to get around these lap cars this time around. May have to be, though. Don't want to put yourself into a situation where you bring out the yellow and have to pit. If you're involved in the accident, you can't get the free pass. We'll bump to the back of Ricky Rudd in the 21. We'll bump and run to get around Rudd. Rudd involved in one of the 5 cautions so far today. He spun off of the left rear corner panel of Jamie McMurray, and they made contact off the exit of turn 2 when he went for that slide on the back straightaway. Dale Jr. going to get by Kenny Schrader. Now a little contact, bump and run way up ahead. And Casey Kane moving McMurray up out of line. A couple Dodges racing each other on the track. Not sure if it would be for position or not. Oh! The wall went Kenny Wallace. So he got squeezed by Dale Jr. that time off of turn 2. Some cars on pit road once again. Both DEI cars and Michael Waltrip and Martin Truex Jr. are in. Jimmy Johnson still on the racetrack for right now at least. Contact to the inside of the left rear of Sterling Marlin. And he is going to clear Marlin. Then he gets into John Andretti. Andretti might be trying to pit this time. He's not going to be able to. He's stuck on the outside. Unless he's pitting on the front stretch, we'll see. Nope, Andretti's still out on the track for right now. Jimmy Johnson is on pit road. And this will give Dale Jr. the race lead, it looks like, on the back straightaway this time. So Dale Jr. back out in front. Everybody has cycled through their green flag stops. Oh! One car way up the track coming out of the pits was Casey Mears, and cautions out somewhere else around the racetrack. It looked like on the bottom of the track in turns 1 and 2. Our 6th caution of the race today. And it looks like Travis Quaffle went for the slide off the front bumper of a darker colored car. And it looked like it was off Scott Riggs. Almost toppled him over and then right back into Riggs on the outside. I think he was trying to pit. Riggs was still trying to stay on the racetrack. And Quaffle spun himself trying to pit from that lane. So caution's out yet again. Our 6th of the race today at Bristol, and the 3rd one of the 6 Scott Riggs has been involved in, and he's been involved in each of the last 2. Green flag back in the air for Dale Jr., lap 368. He's in the lead. Johnson's got a little fresher tires after just pitting, though, and Jr. goes up the track just a little bit, had to lift off turn 2 to keep it off the wall. He has not been good on the restarts today. Johnson to the inside. He got to the bottom quicker than Earnhardt. He has cleared Jimmy back in the lead for the 3rd different time. Jr. trying to cross him over, though, into turn 1. And Dale Jr. back out in front, clear off turn 2 on Jimmy Johnson. Jr. got to the lead right before that caution flag wave when Johnson was just coming out of the pits as well, so kind of a good time in yellow for Earnhardt. But Jimmy's got fresher tires, though, and he's a lot closer to Dale Jr. Obviously, he led that last lap when Jr. got back around him. Jr. in traffic and on older tires. We'll see how this is going to pan out for him. He's only got about 30 lap older tires. Obviously, on any track, for the most part, that makes a big difference. trying to get to the inside of Elliott Sadler, unable to do so for the time being. Sadler got a little wobbly in turns 1 and 2. A couple lap cars have passed Jimmy Johnson as well. Johnson getting around another one right now, and Mike Bliss in between the 8 and the 48 for the time being. We'll stack up off turn 2. 31 car, Jeff Burton maybe holding up both Jeff Green and Elliott Sadler, as well as, of course, race leader Dale Jr. right behind him. Green going up the track a little bit. Sadler to the inside of Jeff Green off turn 2. They are side by side. Dale Jr. going to try to follow the 38 car on the bottom lane to get by Green as well. And the Cheerios, number 43 for Petty Enterprise. Earnhardt going to get around him. Mike Bliss still holding on in front of Jimmy Johnson, allowing Dale Jr. to get away. Jr. now to the inside of Elliott Sadler, moves him up the track with a little bump and run on the 38. Not quite clear yet. Might have a chance to clear him in 1 and 2, and does. Echo Force Racing, welcome into the stream. One more car for Dale Jr. to get around to get the clean air. Jimmy Johnson's only got Elliott Sadler between himself and Earnhardt. And Dale Jr. trying to get around the 31 of Jeff Burton currently. First car to pass probably going to be the one with the clean air, especially considering they probably have fresher tires than Dale Jr. right now. Jr.'s just not close enough on corner entry to either get underneath Jeff Burton or get to the back bumper of him. Tell the 8 car's really driving it in deep on corner entry. He's going to get underneath the 31 car this time, though, into turns 1 and 2 side by side. And Dale Jr. with a little slide job into turns 3 and 4, and he is clear. Got around him. 2 lap cars between the top 2 again, and about a 9/10 of a second lead for Dale Jr. over Jimmy Johnson. Watching the Sharpie 500 Bristol Night Race live on KRC right now, just under 120 laps to go. Dale Jr.'s already clinched the most laps led today. The only 2 drivers to lead laps today, Jimmy Johnson and Dale Jr. They are for sure the class of the field. Four laps ahead at one point. Yeah, that's just the cautions giving him free passes. We've had 6 yellows so far. Dale Jr. shut the door on Burton, who got to the inside, and that knocked the 31 car off the bottom, and Elliott Sadler got around him. Slowed Earnhardt down a little bit. Now it's only a 7/10 of a second lead. It's not impossible for the race to go caution-free to the end, especially when you consider the fact the longest green flag run is 169 laps to start the race. If they went green all the way to the finish here, it would be just under a 130-lap green flag run to the checker. By the way, Johnson was able to get around Jeff Burton when Burton got shuffled to the outside lane after Sadler had passed him. Jimmy Johnson closing in on the 38 car now. Sadler kind of missed the bottom of the racetrack that time. That holds up Johnson, and Earnhardt probably pulled away about another 1/10 of a second. He was faster than the 48. Again, Johnson's got 30 lap fresher tires than Dale Jr. right now. I wouldn't doubt that Johnson gets around the 38 car, that he's going to be able to run down the 8. Jr. got around him in traffic on the restart after Jimmy took the lead initially. It was the only thing helping the 8 car right now, and now he's got clean air while Jimmy's still in traffic. Johnson can just get around Elliott Sadler. I think he's going to have a good shot to run down Dale Jr. 1.1 second lead now for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Sadler still in front of the 48. Junior overdrove turns 1 and 2, got into the wall. He just got back in the gas a little too soon, kind of dove it off and hit deep on the bottom of the racetrack as well before getting into the gas too soon. Johnson 0.3 of a second faster than Earnhardt that last lap with Junior getting into the wall. Still stuck behind the 38 car though right now. They are bumper to bumper for the time being. I wonder if Johnson's just going to move him up out of the way here after a little while. Saw a lot of bump and running going on in the truck race the other night. Not nearly as much in this Cup Series race. A bit more tame, though. We have seen more cautions. Just had the 1 yellow in a 200-lap truck race at Bristol under the lights. And in less than 400 laps, we've had 6 cautions already in this race. Johnson blew an engine late in the race. That'd be biblical. That would put him on the bubble if he did blow an engine. If he just finishes these races, he's comfortably ahead of the cutoff line. He has an engine failure. It can be close. Could you imagine Jimmy Johnson missing the chase? In the mid-2000s? I mean, this is before his first championship, but still. The season before it. But he was still a championship contender even in his rookie year. $29 likes on the stream so far, by the way, and only... I think we've had upwards of nearly 30 people watching at one point in time. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you have not already for more daily NASCAR content. We'll have 100 laps to go next time by. Dale Jr. still, again, a 1 second lead over Jimmy Johnson. And this extra long Bristol night race with the power outage I had at the beginning of the stream. After we originally qualified, ran 42 laps, we had to requalify, rerun the first 42 laps. And now, after that 50-minute delay at the very start of the stream due to it, we've put ourselves in this position where we finally have just 100 laps to go. Definitely would have been over by now if it wasn't for the 50 minutes it took for us to restart the race. Some cars on pit road right now making a scheduled green flag stop. Jimmy Johnson continuously closing on Dale Jr., but he may end up pitting sometime soon. And Michael Waltrip is likely going to be in next because Truex is in. They pitted at the same time during the last set of stops. Will we get any more cautions in today's race as we have less than 100 to go? A lot of them have been during green flag pit stops. I think 4 of the 6 have been during green flag pit stops. Rudd kind of spun with contact on a non-green flag stop off turn 2, and we had a debris caution where Jason Leffler's hood flew off earlier. Jimmy Johnson still on the track right now. Elliott Sadler had pitted. Johnson was probably hoping he would have pitted before he had passed him and not after he had passed him. Still green for right now. 95 laps to go at the line. I do think if we get another caution, though, Dale Jr. is definitely going to pit. Try to ensure himself that he's going to make it on fuel to the end. We're not 100% certain yet. Although, as of right now, it does seem as if he is looking fairly good. Johnson still on the racetrack. Still 1.1 seconds off the race lead. Have to imagine if a caution comes out, he'll be pitting during the yellow, and we'll have a good little race on pit road between the 8 and 48 as well. Jeff Burton coming out of the pit lane down to the bottom. Dale Jr. will cycle around him before getting into turn 1. And I believe Jimmy Johnson's in the pits right now, so Johnson has finally pitted from second place. Dale Jr. will be a full lap ahead of him. Now can Johnson cycle out in front of Dale Jr. and only be 1 lap down? Mike Bliss pulling out in front of Jr. coming out of the pit lane on the front stretch definitely helped him. There's Jimmy Johnson down on the bottom of the track. He is trying to get up to speed in turns 3 and 4, now to the front straightaway. And Jimmy Johnson will be 1 lap down, the same position he was in before a caution came out earlier in the race. I believe it was the 5th yellow at the time. No caution yet. It's going to be tough for Dale Jr. to run down Johnson because now it's more than 30 lap fresher tires, probably closer to 60 to 70 lap fresher tires for the 48 versus the 8. As he's looking to pick up a little extra time on the track as we continue to stay green. Junior into the wall off turn 2 just a little bit. The product of getting back into the throttle a bit too soon there. Oh, it has been a good race for Dale Jr. so far. Halfway on fuel, it looks as if he is maybe 4 to 5 laps short on fuel to the end of the race, so I don't think Dale Jr. will make it. But knowing the AI and their strategy, they're probably going to pit at least one more time. Whether that would be under caution green, obviously we'll have to wait and see. Plan for Dale Jr. currently is definitely to stay out, so he can pit under caution if at all possible. I think the way everybody else is pitting, though, I think he's still in good shape to win this race. Even with staying out of the pits during that really the last 2 cautions. Allowed him to try to keep a little bit better track position, even if it is only 1 position. Looking low, trying to get to the inside of Mike Bliss. Bliss not going to give him a lot of room. Junior still gets underneath. Oh, Bliss into the side of him on the back straightaway. Came off the wall a little bit. Junior wasn't expecting that. Still door to door between the 0 and the 8. And Dale Jr. finally will clear Bliss and put him another lap down. Plus one of the chase guys right now, really fighting hard. Junior on the inside of Kyle Petty, a little contact all over the track between those two. Dale will finally get around him. Jimmy Johnson's got about 4 cars between himself and Dale Jr., and he's still pulling away. I don't think Junior's going to have any chance to get back up to Jimmy. Jimmy will definitely pit before Junior does on the next stop. That could potentially put Johnson even more laps down. Rudd getting around Schrader, open up the bottom lane for Dale Jr. to get underneath the 49 cars. Sam will go for the generated fantasy driver in the 109. Clears him off turn 2 and a lift to keep it out of the wall, though, and I think he still got a piece of it with his right rear corner panel. Nothing major, just a tiny scrape, though. Johnson pit the following lap. I still don't plan on that, only because there's a good chance he'll be 1 lap down when we both cycle out, and if he gets a caution, you get back on the lead lap with the free pass, where if a caution came out when he was 2 to 3 laps down, then he would only get one of those 2 to 3 laps back. So I feel like that put me in a better spot. So even though I'll be at that point over 100 lap older tires, I'd rather just stay out as long as I possibly can. Junior's made 2 green flag stops today, but they've both been when I've been in the middle of a field pass. So I haven't personally had to try to make a green flag stop. There's no practice, only qualifying. Not 1, but 2 occasions. There's a lot more than just 3 to 4 lap cars in between Johnson and Earnhardt now. There's about 5 or 6. Johnson looking to get around John Andretti, the 14 car Michigan winner as well. Junior drives underneath of Ricky Rudd. Old contact with Rudd. Getting into turns 1 and 2. Clears him on the back straightaway. Stays in front of him. 66 laps to go as of right now. Did go green all the way to the finish. It'd be the 2nd longest green flag run of the race today. I didn't think that was going to be the last caution when it had happened. For about 300, lap 370. The longer we go into this run, more likely it is probably to stay green. A slide underneath of Marlin. Kept it off the 40 car. He just drove it in a bit too deep on corner entry that time. So put Marlin another lap down, who was involved in that last caution. Now the inside of Bobby Labonte in the 18, who came in 9th in the standings today. Labonte just nearly missed the wreck earlier. That was when Ricky Rudd had spun off turn 2. He's able to get on the binders, get on the brakes quick enough to keep from running into the back of either the DEI cars that were right around him, of Waltrip and Truex at the time, as well as, of course, getting into the sliding 21 car of Rudd. "61 laps to go for Dale Jr. to try and win at Bristol and get his 10th win of the season. And try to close in on the regular season points battle on Jeff Gordon, Carl Edwards, who would surpass Stewart with a win no matter where Stewart finishes. I'm going to be honest, I haven't even really seen Edwards in a long time. I've seen Gordon from time to time, and I've seen Stewart from time to time. I have not seen Edwards in at least a couple hundred laps in this race. There have been a few drivers who have blown engines. The one car on pit road right now looked like Tony Stewart's into the pits. Junior gets around John Andretti. Gonna have to watch other cars potentially pitting this time as well. Over the next few laps, really. Elliott Sadler pulling down onto pit road now. Matt Kenseth working his way out of the pits. Jamie McMurray just clipped. Oh, Kenny Wallace. That stacked him up a little bit, and that caused Dale Jr. to get into the side of McMurray, who ricocheted back into Wallace. Near accident there off turn 2, involving the race leader. We continue to stay green for right now. A lot of cars got right back around the 8. Mike Bliss to the outside. Doesn't seem like that's going to work through turns 1 and 2. Junior stays in front of him. Junior's car a little looser than some of the other cars around him. He's on almost 100 lap old, actually over 100 lap older tires, because he last pitted at lap 330. Still see Jimmy Johnson up the way. He has not pitted a second time during this current green flag run up to this point. Again, Dale Jr. can't be involved in the accident, because if he is, he cannot pit for fuel or tires under the caution. Waltrip and Truex have both pit right now. We continue to stay green. Jimmy Johnson still in the free pass position with 51 laps to go. Three wide entering turn one. Nope, they cleared Jeff Burton, luckily, who was coming out of the pits. Mike Bliss was well cleared. 45, 21, 17. All their cars. 49 laps to go at the line. Junior misses the bottom just a little bit. This car's moving around quite a bit in the middle of the corners, and all these cars on pressure tires in front of him are pulling away. He's got over 100 lap older tires than everybody else that's still on the racetrack. And finally, it looks like Jimmy Johnson has pit and has allowed Dale Jr. to get an extra lap on Jimmy Johnson. 2 laps at that as he's 3 laps ahead. Contact between Ryan Newman and Dale Jr. And Jr. got up into the wall. As a result, and that's causing the right front tire now to wear down a little bit more on Dale Jr.'s race car. Newman coming out of the pits went a bit wide into turn 3 and got into the side of Earnhardt, knocking him up into the wall. Newman just below the cutoff line, trying not to lose an extra lap in case we get a caution in the middle. Green flag stops, and in the process of that, he almost caused the caution. I think Junior may actually consider pitting just so he doesn't get ran over here at the end and involved in the yellow, so that way he'd already be good to the end on fuel. Even though he'd give a couple of those laps up, I would have to assume Johnson would get right back to being just 1 lap down again. Quarter tank of gas left for the 8. Pulls it back in on a couple of the cars moving side by side of Marlin and Rudd. Longtime veterans in the sport this time period of NASCAR. Back in the 2005 season. Both not too far away from their retirement from the Cup Series. A little contact between Jeff Burton and Mike Bliss. Nearly sent Bliss into the outside wall. He bobbled a bit. Dropped in line in between Newman and Burton. They kept it off the wall barely. And Dale Jr. will pit this time. We'll have 40 laps to go when he comes out of the pits. And Jr. will be on his way in. He'll take it easy, try not to speed. Speed limit 70 miles an hour, and he is on to pit road. 4 tires and fuel for Dale Earnhardt Jr., and he will make it to the end. No adjustments on the 8 car. This is the final pit stop of the race. His 3rd under green flag conditions here today at Bristol. Off and away goes Dale Jr. Just saw Jimmy Johnson cycle back through, so Johnson back in the free pass position. .39 laps to go for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Jimmy Johnson in dire need of a caution in these final 40 laps to get the free pass and still have a shot at the 8. Everybody else likely going to pit one more time yet. That includes potentially Johnson himself if it did stay green to the end. This green flag run has reached almost 100 laps. It would be the 2nd green flag run to reach 100 laps in today's race. And Junior's got slightly fresher tires than the rest of the field now with him pitting when he did, at least until everybody else pits again. Strategy's been all over the place today, but it is still made for a somewhat close race compared to what we were probably originally expecting before we ended up having that first caution, which led to a string of yellows. And we've got a couple cars pitting right now. In fact, Mike Bliss on his way in. Another car just hit pit road right after him on the back stretch. A couple cars on the front stretch pitting. Johnson would be on fresher tires at the end of the race. He pits and a caution comes out. Caution comes out, which allows him to pit while he get the free pass to get back on the lead lap. Junior trying to get underneath Kenny Walls, couldn't do it that time. May just want to stick behind these guys. He's not going to catch Johnson and put him another lap down unless Jimmy pits. Don't risk causing the wreck yourself if you're Dale Jr. trying to push it too hard, or if somebody else is trying to pit from the second lane like we saw Travis Quaffle do on Scott Riggs earlier. Which is actually the cause of the most recent yellow. Harvick just cycled out of the pits. Haven't seen him today, but I think he is a rival in the Cup Series. I see him up there, and I don't plan on catching him. Got a 2x2 racing up ahead. 28 laps to go in the Sharpie 500 Bristol night race for Dale Earnhardt Jr. trying to get his 10th win of the season. How many points can he gain on both Carl Edwards, Jeff Gordon? We know with a win he'll move up to at least third in the standings above Tony Stewart. Battle for the #1 seed in the regular season championship to be the points leader going into those final 10 races when we start the chase. Cars went a bit wide in the middle of the corner. Bobby Labonte, Jamie McMurray that time. No contact from underneath them between Shane Meal and Ryan Newman. Labonte shuts the door on Harvick before Harvick could get down to the bottom. Junior's lifting a little bit extra in the middle of the corners just to try and keep it behind the 00 of Kenny Wallace right now. 25 laps to go. Stays green. Junior's going to get the win. Caution comes out. He's going to have to fight it out with Johnson to the finish because Jimmy will get the free pass. And Johnson could potentially be on fresher tires. Junior would kind of have to stay out because if he pits to take fresher tires himself, the 48's going to be right there with him on the restart. Versus if Junior stayed out, I think Johnson would have to restart behind all the other lead lap cars, except if we get a restart with less than 10 laps to go. Because if we get a restart with less than 10 to go, Johnson's going to be behind Dale Jr. regardless, so it might actually call the 8 car onto pit road anyway. And the 48's still going to end up pitting one more time to the end. Unless Johnson does what I don't think he'll do, which is stay out. And then Junior pits and actually lines up behind him on the restart, but then Junior would have probably closer to 40 to 50 lap fresher tires on the 48 car. And be right behind him on that restart with less than 10 to go. So there's a couple different things that could happen. I think the third of those is unlikely to happen, or the unlikeliest of Johnson just staying out to the end. But you never know. 20 laps to go. Contact. Dale Jr. trying to stay away from Kenny Wall. Still got into his left rear off the exit of turn 4. And Jr. merged right back up in front of Tony Stewart in the 20 car. Open up a bit more space in front of Dale Jr., but not a whole lot more. Another car on pit road in the backstretch currently. Martin Truex Jr. on his way in as well. When will Jimmy Johnson pit? 17 laps to go. Tony Stewart in the pit right behind Dale Jr. Shane Meal into pit. Laps are going by quickly here at Bristol. Time is not on Jimmy Johnson's side right now. It's kind of the moment of truth. If we're going to see a yellow, I think we're going to see it in the middle of these stops. Like we have 4 of the 6 cautions so far today. So far, so good. 13 to go. I know Jimmy Johnson's pit box is on the backstretch. Haven't seen him enter pit road, but he was kind of out of the windshield vision of Dale Jr. as well. I don't think we're going to know when he pits exactly until we're more than a lap ahead. Junior overdrives turns 1 and 2 into the wall. Nemechek looking low after Junior's mistake. A little contact between the 2 cars. Junior's just going to let Nemechek go. Drop in line behind him off turn 2. 10 laps to go at the line now for Dale Earnhardt Jr. 5 more miles is all Dale Jr. has to go. Michael Waltrip back onto pit road. Final time for him. Jimmy Johnson's in the pits right now. Just saw him in his pit box. So it's going to be over. Even if we get any more cautions, Johnson's probably going to be either 2 or 3 laps down. He's only going to get 1 of those laps back. And honestly, we probably only have time for 1 yellow at this point. A lot of traffic yet in front of Dale Jr. He is 3 laps ahead of Jimmy Johnson. Strategy game has played out well for Dale Jr. today. And he's had a fast car on top of it. Unmatched. Even though at times Jimmy Johnson had taken the lead from him, both on strategy and even once on a restart. In the end, it's going to be Dale Jr. leading over 400 laps of this race and going on to victory lane. Still have more cars pitting and leaving pit road as we speak. 6 laps to go at the line. Seen a couple green-white checkers so far in all 3 series this season. Still have a restart right now if a caution came out, but if we get to 4 or less laps to go, likely could end the race. Terry Labonte into the pit. Some of these guys may be trying to stretch it to the very, very end, hoping that they can make it 1 less stop and try to gain some more positions, especially those around the cutoff line. Or even inside the top 10 to try and better the regular season points finish at the end of the next few races. 3 to go at the line for Dale Jr. He'll be the first driver, the only driver, of course, to reach double-digit wins this season, and any of the top 3 series at that. He'll come on the top level right here in the Cup side. Doesn't plan on passing another car the rest of this race either. A lot of cars in front of him, some faster, some slower. They're battling each other. 2 laps to go. He's just going to sit right behind Joe Nemechek. And we're going to finish this race on a 131-lap green flag run if they can make it to the white flag. A little contact up ahead. I saw Kenny Wallace moving Shane Meal up out of the way. Nemechek just passed Ricky Rudd, potentially for a spot there late. They'll have an extra lap to duke it out as Dale Jr. has reached the white flag, followed by the checker, this time by into turns 3 and 4. The Sharpie 500 Bristol night race will go to Dale Earnhardt Jr. as he picks up his 10th win of the NASCAR 06 season. Dominating fashion today at Bristol. And as long as he led more than 394 laps, which I believe he did, Dale Jr. will now have eclipsed the 2,000 lap lead mark on the season tonight at Bristol. Carrying the momentum he had before going into Michigan where he had a DNF, despite leading laps early and potentially having a shot to win that race, but never got to see the finish. That wreck entering pit road with him and Jeff Burton took him out of it. Comes back in the next race to win it just a few nights later at Bristol. Not the first time Dale Jr. has won the Bristol night race. Still a good win, nevertheless, to have on your resume in your driving career in NASCAR. We'll check out the rest of the finishing results to today's race. Jimmy Johnson, of course, ended up finishing in second place despite being 3 laps down at the finish. Dale Jr. led 460 of the 500 laps today at Bristol. Jimmy Johnson, again, led 40 laps today en route to that second place finish. Those were the only 2 drivers to lead laps, 16 lead changes among them. based off of how the pit stop strategy was playing out pretty much throughout. They really only passed each other on track during green flag conditions like 4 times maybe a piece. So about half of those lead changes were actually under green. 2 hours 25 minutes total time on today's race, even with the 6 caution flags for 18 caution flag laps. 109.62 miles an hour is the average race speed. Greg Biffle finished in 3rd with no laps led. Jeff Burton had a solid day finishing 4th. And Elliott Sadler rounds out the top 5. Great run for him. Qualified top 5 as well. That is a great finish because if it wasn't for Elliott Sadler getting that run, who knows? Maybe that could be the difference in him making the chase and not making the chase. Jeff Green, the 43 car for Petty Enterprise, finishes in 6th place. Rusty Wallace finishes 7th in his final season, gets another top 10 at Bristol. Points leader, Carl Edwards. Quiet day, we didn't really see him a whole lot, but did finish in 8th place. Good points day for him. He'll hold on to the points lead going into California. Ryan Newman will finish in 9th. He closes that gap up on the cutoff line a little bit, as well as Elliott Sadler. And Mike Bliss rounds out the top 10. Another top 10 for Mike Bliss this season. And I'm going to check on this to see how many that is. Yeah, 17 top 10s for Mike Bliss this year. He has the 2nd most top 10s of any driver this season, only behind points leader Carl Edwards, who now has 21 after today's race. That's how consistent of a year Mike Bliss has had. He doesn't have as many top 5s. He's got 8 top 5s. It's actually really good, but I think he's like 7th or 8th on that list. But top 10s, he's got the 2nd most this year. He's still winless, but he's, again, had a great season. Let's see here. Matt Kenseth finished 11th as far as other drivers around the cutoff line. Well, that might be Kyle Busch. One of the Bushes finished 14th. The other one, Tony Stewart, finished 20th. That's a rough finish for him. He came in 4th in points. I haven't found Jeff Gordon yet. Jeff Gordon outside the top 20 today. Michael Waltrip, 25th for DEI. Mark Truex Jr., 27th. Jeff Gordon finished 31st. Terrible pit strategy for him. Another one of the Bushes, 29th. If it's Kurt, that's big because, I mean, Kurt would have finished outside the top 10 regardless, but if Kurt finished 29th, he came in 100 points ahead of Sadler, and Sadler finished 5th. And Newman below the cutoff line at the top 10, too. That could be troublesome for him. We'll check the point standings before we get out of here. Bobby Labonte, 9th in points, finishes 35th. Didn't DNF. Terrible day for the 18 and the 24. Ricky Rudd got in the wreck, finished 38th. He still finished. And we only had 2 DNFs today, which was Scott Wimmer and Greg Quick. And we saw Wimmer wreck earlier. I wonder if that was potentially where he DNF'd at lap 184. But 2 DNFs. 1 fantasy driver and 1 driver in his sophomore season. NASCAR Cup Series 2311 Racing in Noah Hall. Welcome to the stream. Might break Jeff Gordon's record of 13 wins. That's a modern era record, though. Richard Petty's got the all-time record of 27. That will not be broken, I don't think, ever for myself in a NASCAR video game. Well, we have 10 wins. 10 wins with 12 races to go. We head to the California Speedway. Wardale Jr. won earlier this season, but it was a 50% race. It was 250 miles, not 250 laps. This one's 250 laps, 500 miles. It's going to be interesting. Probably going to be a fuel mileage race. Michigan would have been if we could have made it to the end, but we DNF'd early. So looking to bounce back at a 2-mile track later on this weekend. I believe that will be Saturday night on the channel next weekend. Another one from Mike Bliss. He's really something. Yeah, really. With Haas. Mike Bliss with Haas might make the top 10. Not Stuart Haas. This is well before that. Dale Jr. moves up 2 spots in the standings today with his max points day and dominating win at Bristol. He is now only 100 points behind Carl Edwards for the regular season championship with 2 races to go. He's going to need help even with some good performances to catch Carl Edwards, but we'll see what's going to happen. Edwards DNF'd, or would have DNF'd. He had an engine problem at Michigan. Same race Dale Jr. had his issues. He jumps up 2 spots. Jeff Gordon still within 1 race worth of points in 3rd yet. Mathematically, he would have a shot to get to the points lead next race. Tony Stewart, man, he really fell back with that 20th place finish. Greg Biffle now is very close behind him for 4th in the standings. And really, Greg Biffle, I mean, he's only 96 points out of 2nd. So anything could really happen there. We know he's good at California. Had a couple wins there in his Cup career. Also won at Richmond before, too. So see how Biffle will do. Good run for Jimmy Johnson. He's well above the cutoff line right now. Bobby Labonte falls back to 10th. He lost one spot in the standings with that 35th place finish. Elliott Sadler has closed the gap now. He didn't close on Kurt Busch. Busch must have finished in 14th, and Kyle must have finished outside the top 30. So Kurt Busch, he moves up in the standings despite finishing outside the top 10 on Bobby Labonte. Mike Bliss might be a lock for the chase at this point. He's almost a full race worth of points. Actually, he's over a full race worth of points ahead. So after California, depending on where Bliss finishes, he might actually lock up a chase spot. Virtue of points. Again, no wins guarantee you a spot. Bobby Labonte, Elliott Sadler in a tight battle. Newman's still 13th. Has some catching up to do. I think he also DNF'd at Michigan as well as Kevin Harvick. So they've got a little extra catching up to do. So even with a good finish for Newman, he's still well behind right now. But definitely caught up with Bobby Labonte having problems. So Bobby Labonte is only 26 points ahead of Elliott Sadler. That is very tight. Dale Jr. is in the playoffs. Yeah, we are locked in. And I believe we just clinched this race, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I believe we just clinched this race into the chase with the win. Bump and run Edwards out of the way of Callie Richmond. Yeah, I want to get that number 1 seed so that way we have the biggest points battle. Remember, Tony Stewart started, I think he was towards, I don't know if he was exactly last of the drivers in 2011 to make it into the chase, but he was towards the bottom, and he had to win 5 races. So obviously the seeding does matter. You don't want to have to go on that hot of a streak at the end of the year to make it and win the championship. I was going to say make it to the championship 4, to win the championship in this chase format. So it would be better if we can get ahead of Edwards and not be like the number 2 seed, but we'll see. 100 points back is going to be tough. I mean, that's 50 points a race, which is roughly equating to about 10 positions, give or take, 10 to 12, depending on where you finish. If Edwards DNFs and Dale Jr. just finishes both races in the top 10, I think he would pass Edwards. But might have to have Edwards have some rough finishes. Again, he DNF'd on the last 2-mile racetrack at Michigan, or at least had an engine issue. That's just crazy. Those two have, I mean, the guys top 3 in points are the only 3 drivers that have had multiple wins this season. Edwards with 5, Jr. now with 10, and Gordon with 2. Stewart has 1, Biffle has 1, Johnson doesn't have any. Kenseth has 1. Mike Bliss doesn't have any. Kurt Busch has 1. Bobby Labonte doesn't have any. Sadler doesn't have any. Harvick has 1. Newman has 1. And then John Andretti has 1, wherever he's at. The points. Alrighty. That's going to end tonight's stream. Like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. I'll see you guys on NASCAR 06 again tomorrow night. Another Bristol night race, but it will be for the Busch Series, and it will start at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope to see you guys then. 10 races to go in our Busch Series season right now. Still a couple hundred points behind Clint Boyer, who has over a 1-race lead in the standings. Rivalry with Boyer continues, and it comes at the half-mile short track in Bristol. Should be a fun one. 250 laps, I believe, will be the length. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.